We'll call the January 14th, 2020 meeting of the Carolina Board of Supervisors to order. This is the organizational meeting of the board. Our first order of business will be the election of a chairman. I lost a member that was here. Sorry, I thought he was here. One. We are at the point of accepting nominations for chairman for the calendar 2020 calendar year. Get that out right in a minute.
I'll nominate Jeff Seeley.
Do we have any further nominations?
Second.
All right. We have a nomination and a second for Mr. Seeley to be chair. Not hearing any others. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I will gladly turn this over to the chair to finish.
Let me.
We'll move the gavel until we're all set.
Yeah, you just
Well,
gotta
hold
stay
on
there.
a second. We can do this and then move all at the time. There are now nominations open for the vice chair.
I would like to nominate Mr. Floyd Thomas as vice chair.
Second. I have a nomination of Mr. Thomas as vice chair. Any others? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Do we want to rearrange, or can we just finish up this and then rearrange? Is everybody okay with the appointments as they stand?
Ms. Long and I had talked about, I'm going to, she would like to do the Rappahannock Regional River Basin Commission, and so that would maybe be coming off and her going on.
Okay, we can make that switch. Any others? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt with the change of Mrs. Long going to the Rappahannock River Basin Commission?
I'll make that move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in motion seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. I'm going to see, I think. Hold on, I got to go back a page. Chairman, vice chairmen. I need to go back to adoption of bylaws and rules. We all have in our board packet the rules that we follow throughout the year. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the rules? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the rules as they stand.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Thomas.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Board meeting schedule. We have had a pretty, for years, the last 2 years, I don't think we've had a meeting, or maybe we did have a meeting in July. But typically, yeah, we've had one, and we can always not have that meeting if we don't need it. Again, we can always cancel that. So there were a list of meetings in the board packet. I guess to start out, we can start with those and we can amend them as we need if anybody sees anything that's really a problem. For a change, we don't have a meeting on Valentine's Day, Mr. Thomas. Yeah, we can do that. Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the meeting schedule for the Board of Supervisors for 2020.
Before you go,
Yes, sir.
we only have one in April?
Yes,
That's the second month.
that's the first Tuesday.
Budget time, we'll have a work session.
We'll
around
probably
that.
have work sessions, yeah.
Okay. Motion to approve if there's no other questions.
Second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We've done appointments. I don't know why I skipped to there. And I will now close the organizational meeting and we can rearrange seats.
Before you close that, just for clarity,
Sir?
we're doing
time and place and date.
Okay?
So here, 6 o'clock.
So all the Board of Supervisors' regularly scheduled meetings will be in this room at 6 p.m. Just for clarification. Is that enough, Mr. Emerson, or do we need a motion? Because the schedule, I mean, you're right, we need to have the time and place. November is a Thursday because of the VACO meeting.
Correct.
Okay, let's take 4 minutes and rearrange.
Yeah, close that.
Close the organization.
Do I need to make a motion to close? Can I have a motion to close the organizational meeting? Do I have a second? Motion and a second to close the organizational meeting. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Situated. I'm going to call the regular January 14, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Mr. Thomas, would you do an invocation?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Invocation by Mr. Thomas.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand? Dear Father God, we come before you this day to first say thank you. We thank you for your grace, we thank you for your mercies, and we thank you for your many blessings. Those of us that stand here now ask for your guidance. We ask that you give us wisdom so that we may do all the things that are right in the name of you for Caroline County. These and all things I ask in the name of the blessed risen Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Forehand, since you sit at the far end of the table, you are now first for opening board comments.
Well, I am ill-prepared, but I do, and I was been looking for it for the last 5 minutes. Our jail was included on the National Registry of Historic Places. I remember,
That is correct, the old
So
jail.
that was, I'm sure that required a fair amount of work by the historical folks here in Bowling Green. That is an excellent achievement to get that registered. That's all I have at this point. Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'm sorry. First of all, I want to apologize. I've been battling a cough for the last 3 weeks, so I do apologize. And I also have several. I had an opportunity to talk to Chief Loftus a couple days ago in regards to basically fire and rescue calls that are in areas of our county that are closer to different jurisdictions. I just think it's something that we need to. We had the discussion with Bowling Green about the sticker, and my philosophy on that had always been, look, we're uniform, and it doesn't matter what the ambulance says as long as someone's getting help if they're having a heart attack. I know, like in the western part of my district on the Spotsylvania County line, the Partlow Fire Station and rescue could actually be probably closer to someone, for example, having a heart attack than the Ladysmith could. And I just think it's something that we need to work with different jurisdictions and possibly getting our citizens the quickest help possible. I don't really think the ambulance matters, and I know the devil's in the details. But it's the same thing with, Mr. Seeley had brought up, which I didn't understand either, is Fort A.P. Hill. Talking to maybe one of our congressmen about when we want to bring Fort A.P. Hill into a situation, the agreement we have with Fort A.P. Hill, if it's possible, shouldn't necessarily go commander to commander. Maybe it should stay with the fort. And I don't know if we can work that at a higher level. So that way the kind of agreement that we have with Fort A.P. Hill is a constant as opposed to changing every 2 years. So I did want to bring that up. Second thing I have is Mr. Schiebel. I saw some of your people picking up trash the other day. I stopped by, thanked them on Route 1. They're doing a great job. Any reports that you can give to us on the Adopt a Highway program is much appreciated. I like the data. I like the numbers. as far as what's happening in the county as far as that's concerned, what new organizations that we've been recruiting to do the Adopt a Highway. So anything like that would be a big plus. I do want to thank the YMCA. We had an Adopt a Highway program, trash pickup, Lake Landor, in conjunction with the YMCA over the weekend. We went from Madison Elementary to the Sassafras Shade Winery, which I think is about 4 miles, a 4-mile stretch, 3 to 4 mile stretch of territory. And combined, we got 47 bags of trash, so it's quite a bit. I do want to thank the Sheriff's Office for the speed trailer, and excuse me, Kevin Botkin from the State Police called him, and he gave us extra patrols, so that was nice to see. We did get, Mr. Cully, I think you got an email from Little League. It was emailed to me today, and I think you were CC'd on it. Last year, we gave the Little League $20,000 for their lights. I think that was the idea for it. For 2 years, right? Right, exactly, for 2 years. Well, they have, and I've just asked it to be put on the agenda, they have to spend about $2,000 or $1,200, $1,300 in permit fees back to the county, so they would like to have the full $20,000 and not have to. So something we can discuss. I told them at least we would put it on the agenda. Finally, and I know it's been covering a lot. Excuse me. The Polar Bear Plunge is coming up on Saturday, February 1st, at 10 o'clock at the Lake Landor Beach. It's always appreciated all the corporate sponsors that we get. I think Mr. Parton had said he wanted to be a corporate sponsor this year, right? And Mr. Seeley, the same thing. Mr. Forehand's already given me the money, so that's good. Appreciate it. But overall, we have 14 organizations that are involved. We have A Tale to be Told, Bowling Green Baptist Church, Caroline's Promise, Caroline Recovery Center, Caroline YMCA, Habitat for Humanity, Ladysmith Ruritan Club, Ladysmith Volunteer Fire, Ladysmith Volunteer Rescue, the Masons of Caroline, Rehoboth United Methodist Church, St. Mary's Catholic Church, Wrights Chapels United Methodist Church, and the Young Life of Caroline County. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. We put up there's a website now up on the Ruritan for kind of promoting this. Any one of those organizations that you guys would like to support, give money to, all of them have plungers going into the water. And if you give them that money, that 100% of that money goes to them. So it's a great cause, and so they're looking for plungers and support on the day of the plunge. So thank you.
And you may, getting in with that cough, we may be visiting you in the hospital.
Well, in case you need it, here's some corporate sponsorship forms for all of you. Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Cully, do you have a mask that we can make him wear?
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mrs. Long?
I just wanted to let you know the meeting date with AP Hill has been set, so we will be following up on that MOU situation there. Also, we did have a fire in my district this past week, 10 days ago, I guess it was, and I want to thank the units for getting there so quickly. Unfortunately, the structure was already engulfed when the call came in, but they were there, and I think from the time it went to dispatch until the time they came, it was like 6 or 7 minutes, and in a rural county, that's great, and they kept it from spreading to the neighboring structures, so I do appreciate all those that showed up quickly there, and my condolences to the resident that was lost in that fire. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments. First comment is we had a structural fire in dawn on yesterday. The structure completely burned, and when I went down, I was kind of surprised that we had our tankers there, but still, I don't think we had enough water. I just got to thinking that as that area grows, I'm hoping that maybe we can look at digging some wells or putting some kind of tower there, water tower, so that we'll have additional water for those businesses that are in that area. But I want to thank Chief Loftus and our volunteers and our career people for responding. It was quite a big fire. Secondly, I spoke to the director from the YMCA today, and they're going to be coming before us on the 28th, I believe. And I think I was very pleased at what's going on at the Y and what she's doing. Finally, there's a kind of big elephant in the room regarding some of the things that have been on television that the sheriff has said regarding the sheriff's department. And I've known sheriff for many years now, maybe 40, and he knows that I speak directly to him, and I'm a little disappointed. I'm disappointed because nothing that you said to me or I said to you is personal. So I take offense to you saying that it's personal. Not personal at all. I think we do the business the best that we can. Speaking for myself as part of this board, I know that we take seriously all of the efforts that are made on behalf of our employees. Although they're your employees, we take it serious, what they do and how they're compensated. And I was disappointed again that you don't think that we take it serious. Finally, I'll say that you and I have had conversations in the back room. I told you, anytime you wanted to meet to have a discussion about pay, I'm open. And I think I told you that. And you've never said anything to me about a meeting other than that. So I don't take it personal. This is the job that we're assigned to do. And I think it was a little bit inappropriate. And those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a couple, I thought we were supposed to have a meeting with VDOT this week, but I think it's next month now, or next meeting. There is a program that they're starting called the Trip Towing Program, so I'd like to make sure we all are aware of that, which is specialized heavy-duty tow trucks that will be called on 95 in particular. So we need to make sure we're aware of that and that we know what's going on with that program so we can have the best response from the county. I do want to thank all the people. They're not here. They'll be at our next meeting, but I want to say it ahead of time. We had a wonderful senior gala. Well, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Rollins is here. I see her. I can't see that far without my glasses, but we had a great senior gala that was put together by a bunch of hardworking folks that did it in way less time than we normally do. Dr. Calveric was part of that group, so we're supposed to recognize them at our next meeting, but I didn't want to, and we've got someone from the Y, so, okay, I'm not going to do each one individually because I'll miss somebody, but we did have a great thing, and that's something we're going to do next meeting to make sure we formally recognize all the folks that did something. The other one, just so you know, January 15th, tomorrow, is actually Martin Luther King's birthday. The county's having a program here next Monday when we celebrate that at 6:30, and all of the community's invited. I think it'll be a good event that we should all get together for. I'd like to thank the co-op and Gary Watts for the article I read in the paper the other day that they helped put the new scoreboard up for the baseball field. So I think that's a wonderful thing of the community working together. And last but not least, my uncle was a police lieutenant on the force many years ago, and my cousin said I looked just like him, so I posted a Facebook post about him and Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. On that note, I think we need to officially schedule our work session with the sheriff. So if I could have an addenda item that we create addenda item 6 or 7, somewhere in that nature, that we can discuss a work session with the sheriff and some items that the board may have to address those. And that'll be it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I, too, want to congratulate all the folks with the Senior Citizens Gala. It was a really excellent evening. On such a short timeline, I know how hard it was to contact the folks that were there, but I'm looking forward to next year's being bigger with a lot more runway to actually get folks invited and plan a bigger event. I'd also like to piggyback on the jail. There is going to be a jail presentation here on the 27th at 2 o'clock. 6 o'clock. The 20, I don't know why I have the 27th, 26th. At 6 o'clock here, about the jail and the history of the old jail. It's a Pauley jail. It's one of 3 left. It's at 3 o'clock? I thought 6, but okay, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. All in, all done, 3 o'clock? It's at 3? 3 o'clock. So anybody interested in the history on the courthouse lawn that's been there since like 1904, 1905, and all the events that took place there? 1900, I'm being corrected. Okay. Anyways, jail presentation for anybody interested here. With that, we will move on to the amendments to the agenda, and I have 2 written down that could probably go underneath new business. We can do 11A and 11B. 11A being the Little League refund, and 11B, the work session with the sheriff.
What's the date again?
Of the jail?
No, the work session.
We haven't done, we're going to do that under 11B. We will discuss the date. Mr. Cully's asking, can we also under 11B work the school work session in as well? So we'll do work sessions under 11B, and we'll work on dates for the 2 of those. Anything else? We have added basically 3 items to the agenda. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We will go into presentations and reports, and first up is an update from the Meadow Event Park. Marlena Pearson-Joliffe, Vice President of Operations and Executive Director, State Fair, Virginia. Good evening.
Good evening. Do you have the PowerPoint? Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening just to give you an overview of 2019. I know from reviewing your agenda you have a long one, and I have what you're going to see tonight you had in your packet. I did have one update, and so I'll try to be concise and again hit the high points and then answer any questions you might have. I also like to take the time when I'm here to thank all of the departments and the agencies we work with within the county to do what we do at the Meadow Event Park. And without their guidance and support, sometimes we get a lot of answers. We get answers before we do things and try to do them right. And I think we've got a lot of great working partnerships, and we plan to continue that. So one of the first items that I'll talk about is at the end of 2019, we had an internal structure change with Farm Bureau, and that really changes none of the operations at the Meadow Event Park and none of our staffing. We just basically shifted our operation within the company, and it's a result of the original purchase of the Meadow Event Park by Virginia Farm Bureau, and dissolved the company that was known as Commonwealth Fairs and Events, which we really didn't use a lot. It's not a word we use publicly. On stationery, we always talk about the State Fair and the Meadow. So if you see that, we've been notifying vendors, and there are several documents that may need updated, but I just wanted to point out that that has taken place and was effective December 1, 2019. So I always like to share where we've been and where we are. We had a really solid year at the property. We had such good growth from 2016 up to 2017 that we have maintained. We were up a little last year, and then the Tough Mudder event did not rebook for 2019. So when you look at bodies at the property, and it's not a perfect system, we do try to track folks who attend for weddings and horse shows and the state fair included. We are landing right at about 440,000 visitors for 2019. We also track how many event days are at our property, and I want to explain it. The document you first received in your packet, there was a revision in the 2018-19 numbers. I noticed it was a very wide gap, and so I fixed that, so just be sure that you correct that with the information you have on the screen. So what that represents in brief is if we have 4 events on a weekend, that's 4 event days. So that number really is a number we use to say how busy are we, how many different events have we done. It could be a corporate meeting of 25, and it can also be like the 10-day RV rally. So again, some positive growth, and we're holding our own with continually trying to land business. What we're focusing really hard on now is not just continuing to add, but adding those things that make the most business sense and that we can support with staffing. Month to month, obviously the tall bar in September represents the 10 days of the state fair, and we had a really solid year this year, some heat in the middle, but really landed at 245,000 attendance, which was slightly under last year. We just need to continue to find ways to get folks to visit at times other than Saturdays. So, but we've got a great start to the year in the Farm Bureau Center. It really carries January, February, and March. We have trade shows in the building pretty much from the beginning of January, fully scheduled every weekend through the middle of March. So as you see, August is the quiet month. I'll go ahead and mention, that we had a concert promoter who came to the board for the festival permit. I think I've tried to work with the gentleman. We went for 3 different events, and long story short, that event is off of the table officially. So once you've gone through the same dance, I would say 3 times, then we know we're going to solve the August attendance with some creative ideas on our own long term that we can control. July was an exciting time at the Meadow, a wee bit stressful when the temperatures, when I booked this event, I kept thinking the worst case scenario would be that we end up with 98-degree temperatures, and we had a whole week of severe heat, and it did make it challenging. The good news is the power grid at the Meadow Event Park held up, and every one of the 750 Airstreams, except for the very oldest one that didn't have air conditioning, was running their air conditioning nonstop. So the power bill was more than I wanted, but we made it through the event. They had a very successful time, and we sold. Going into it, I told them that we had to max out at 750 units, and we did. And we got through it. I think we will land. We learned a lot on this event, and we invested ourselves in infrastructure and power supplies, probably $100,000 to pull this event off and get ourselves on the map for the future. We have another national event this July. In the middle of July, the National Association of African American RVers will be about 350 units, so about half the size of this event, but really great to land an event in the middle of July. If you drove down Route 30 from November 16th through the end of the year, you saw a lot of flashing lights in the evening. We just finished Illuminate, and on the very far left is the 2019 number, and fortunately we were up this year. we've been continually just a bit worried about how long an event can sustain, but as you see, this was the 6th year. I have a contract for 3 more years, so been a great event for us and for the community, and had a big move with their Santa's Village to the Farm Bureau Center, and we worked through a few logistical issues, but it certainly made the event much nicer for the attendees because they had solid asphalt parking. It's one of my favorite and least favorite pictures of the fair. So I shared that with you, but I want to give you just a quick backstory. I happened to walk in the State Police building that Saturday at about 6 o'clock, and they had all their screens up, and that was what I saw on the screen. So we basically had a perfect storm on that day where the temperatures dropped, and we had people started arriving when we opened, and it just never slowed down. So usually at our property during the fair, when it hits about 4 o'clock, some folks leave, new folks come, and that didn't happen. So we did have a parking lot issue. We had total gridlock. We couldn't get people in. We couldn't get people out. It was, I'm not sure how you predict these kinds of things, but we've had lots of meetings as to trying to be able to predict this. The good news is that everybody you see in that picture got into the fair that day, and I think we had around 55,000 people on the property that Saturday, and that really is where we feel like that's a comfortable zone for us that we don't want to surpass to be able to deal with traffic and such. So I said earlier, and we are still working really hard to figure out how to shift some folks, but we don't control the weather, and when you have straight 90-degree temperatures and then it drops to 70 and the sun's out, this is what you're going to have. So the other story behind this is why it's very, very critical with our property that we have functioning IT infrastructure, internet access, great Comcast service, and all of these people online are using their cell phones, so our cellular capacity has to be really at peak when we're during the state fair. That's just a brief view of by day when we hit some strong numbers compared to last year. We did a very steep discount on Tuesday, and it drove an extra 8,000 people to the property, and we had a great day. And then we had a very strong finish to the state fair with both the final Saturday and Sunday being very strong. This slide doesn't really come anywhere near to conveying the amount of time that we spend on safety and security, and we had excessive heat during the fair, and we were really at high risk for brush fires, and I can't say enough about the support we got from Caroline County Fire and Rescue Team as to kind of ramping up attention to our property, helping us with watering parking lots. We, on the final weekend, really, we had some situations where it could have been challenging, but I felt like we had people paying attention, and that worked out. We also went into the fair, unfortunately, coming out of a not-so-good summer with a very large festival, active shooter situation in California, and things, the attention had kind of died down by the fair, but it certainly is a challenge, and we operate in a day and time where we spend an enormous amount of time trying to make what we do safe and prevent the things that we know we can control. So we also, I thought it was good to point out, in our proffers, as you all know, we operate with a safety committee that was put in place in the beginning to make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing, not doing things that will make issues for the county, but constantly looking at what we need to be doing. And as you know, safety and security issues are constantly changing nowadays. We usually meet 3 times a year with an extra meeting right before the fair, and that's multi-agency. I realize in the school of PowerPoint presentations, you're never supposed to put this many numbers on one slide, but what I wanted to point out here was this represents what I get back from the state police as to categories of issues that take place during the fair. And so you kind of, we track it. And what I wanted to share was, we were up in, if you look at the total at the bottom, but a lot of attention on Route 30 and the speed limit, and really has brought attention to speeders. So that was up. We had a slew of disabled vehicles in that area, and I honestly think, after looking into it a little further, part of that was heat related. The disorderly disturbance, we had one concession on the fairgrounds that had the same couple, had 3 different instances of an issue with that couple on it. Dealt with something as simple as how much strawberry topping was put on their funnel cake. So I've realized that may not seem true, but it is. So all in all, serious issues continue to be, I feel like we run a tight operation, and the state police, as well as the sheriff's department, do a good job helping us keep things under control. We, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we've been waiting on final approval from the DEQ on the water runoff for the new livestock facility. It is set to go. It's at the meadow. Actually, the building arrived back in September. We've been waiting on the sign-off, and we're close. So that will go where you see the blue star, will be a covered structure, and it will mean that we don't have to rent the very large tent that takes us almost 2 weeks to put up, and just as it's a massive undertaking. So we're all looking forward to that. It will be ready for this year's fair. Just wanted to point out, we have the Farm Festival. It's a new event. It's the former Virginia Horse Festival. We rebranded. What we want to do is bring a small part of an event in the spring that mimics the state fair, just on a smaller scale, because that's what we know we do best. And that's May 2nd and 3rd. And then with the Secretariat Tourism Program, we've been working very hard to work a longer-term lease and grow the Secretariat Heritage Center program. We don't have an agreement with the family yet, but we are working very hard to work through what that's going to look like for the future. And many of you probably have met Leanne Layden, who truly is the cheerleader for the program, has worked extremely hard since she arrived at the Meadow to bring that program to life, and she announced that she's retiring at the end of March. She's done some incredible things for the property and that program. And at the end of March, we will have the Secretariat birthday celebration, and that will be it's a Saturday, really, will be the crux of the festival at the property, but lots of really neat activities will go on around at other related sites. I like to share, as you all know, we continue to be a site for food distribution in the Dawn area, and my report back said that our numbers were down a little. But at least we filled a void at that time, and I know last year there was a question, I think, on this issue about what is given to the local food pantry, and the plan was to take what our Illuminate partner collected with food and send it that way. However, he changed charities and worked with a different charity, and so that did not happen. And finally, before I answer any questions you might have, I will, one of the things that I talked about in our meeting on the admissions tax discussion, and was a question I raised, and just said that hopefully I feel like we've got a lot of good partnerships going on, we work together well, is to constantly look at what is the cost of the Meadow Event Park operation to Caroline County, and what are the benefits of having the operation in the county. We don't ask for much, but what we're trying to do and try to do well is to be a partner and make good things happen in the county. And I also shared some background on anything related to the proffers I like to kind of hit head on. And there is a proffer, number 3, that was created when those proffers were written about advertising the county logo. And I just shared with you a letter as I went back and reflected on that. There was some concern that we weren't maybe doing that as like we should, but what I did was look back at where the advertising world was in 2005 and where we are now, and I will say we do try to honor this proffer just as much as we can and in every way we can. So I shared that with you, and with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or any comments.
Board members with questions, comments?
I had to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I had the
Mr.
privilege of
Forehand.
speaking at the Airstream event, and it was quite different than I anticipated, I guess would be the only way accurately to state it. But great event, lots of folks, and if I remember correctly, our economic development tourism group organized in conjunction some tours, historical tours and things of the
They
like.
do.
So it was.
Yep. That's been instrumental in landing those events because it's basically a convention on wheels, but they look for other things to do in the county, and the tourism staff has been very proactive in working with the groups and is doing so again this July.
And those people came here and they spent money in our restaurants and bought products to get them through the warm week and things like that. So it was a great event for the county, and it was a pleasure to be there with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, I did have one. Isn't this the 50th anniversary of Secretary's birth?
You're right, it is, yes.
Okay. I
So
kind of
this-
remember that because
You are correct. I should have.
73 was a 3-year-old. So we should do, Mr. Wilson and the county should do something special to kind of help you with that, because I think that would be a great idea.
There's a resolution with Mr. Wilson and working through the General Assembly
Right.
to honor the history of Secretariat
So I
at
think-
the Meadow.
Yeah, and I think we need to do whatever else we can. I know you had a lot of Secretariat material for years and years, so that should be something we really focus on, especially this year. And the last one, I really appreciate you discussing the admissions tax and why the county wanted it is sometimes not known, but we border Hanover right there, and the hotels are in Hanover. We're actually using Hanover for the wastewater treatment and things of that nature. So from the time you came, there was always that discussion of how we can direct a little more of that revenue into the county. So that's why we talked about it. There are things we would like to do long range, or at least I'd like to see us do long range. And tying on to what Mr. Underwood just said, if we got water to you, we could expand water along Route 30 and then have more development within the county. So we're trying to do things like that, and you're growing, and we appreciate you looking at it, and we may look at it again to help those things, but we're definitely not trying to do anything that'll hurt you at all.
You can build a hotel.
Counties don't build hotels. Don't start that
You can
rumor.
find me a partner.
Don't
Gary's
start
worked
that
on that.
rumor.
I'm joking.
But
I'm joking.
you should talk to Mr. Fincham. We'll work with Mr. Fincham on that concept.
No, we understand the discussion, and we had great dialogue that came out of it, not only with our property, but with the county fair folks. And out of that discussion came a partnership with the chamber, and we're looking at doing something good together, so
Thank you
Mr.
very
Sealy.
much.
you're welcome.
Mrs. Long?
Yes, in March, is there a date for a celebration for the 50th birthday? I know you don't have an agreement with the family yet, so you're still on that line.
Well, that event is that's on for sure. It's
Do you have a date?
28th. Am I correct on that? Yeah. It's Saturday, it's the last Saturday in March, so I'm sure because we had a discussion about it today, it should be March 28th.
Okay, great. And as far as the proffer, number 3 goes, just keep trying anywhere you can get Caroline, Virginia on anything. You know, there's a Caroline County, Maryland. We don't want people going the wrong way. We want them to come here. So that is our agreement. So as often as you can get it in there.
I understand.
We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the numbers. Thanks for all the support, and hopefully we can help each other along the way. So thanks for coming out this evening.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Next, under presentations, is an update/funding request from the Caroline County Complete Count Committee, United States Census, Jesse Rollins, Chair. Good evening, Mrs. Rollins.
Good evening. Who will I help these?
No, she's got handouts.
Good evening, Chair and other members of the board. I am Jesse Rollins from the Mattaponi District and Chair of the Caroline County 2020 Complete Count Census Committee. Our goal is to count everyone once and only once and in the right place, and to improve the 2010 census count of 76% of the county. Why? According to a recent study conducted by the City of Richmond, each person missed by the census will cost their local community approximately $2,000 a year in lost federal funding, or approximately $20,000 total until the next opportunity to recount. As such, it only takes missing 50 people in any given community to cost their local community $1 million. We're working very hard at educating our community on how the simple act of completing the 2020 census form can and will have on the federal dollars that come to Caroline County. As we start the budget process, wouldn't it be grand to have more dollars to support the needs in our community? Imagine, if you will, the $675 trillion pie in the sky, and our share is based on the data collected from the 2020 census. Our theme is a simple one. It's simple yet powerful. It simply says, I count. We want everyone who reads this to get the message of how important each and every member of their household is to the financial future of the community they live in. Some of our barriers, as noted in the basic census information: limited English proficiency, under 5 and over 65, disabled, low income, and Hispanic, Latino, African American households. So our effort to reach all of our community, and especially focus on areas that have shown in the past have been undercounted, our plan to do that with the handout that you just got. This is our banner, our flyer that the committee came up with. We plan to print this and post it throughout the community, email it to every email that we can possibly get in our system. We are available to speak in person at events, from churches to your very own constituent meetings. You just need to contact me, and I will see if I'm available, or any member on the committee. Through all media outlets, website, print media, physical environment, telephones, we're planning to use every method that we possibly can to get the word out so that people will understand that they count. This year, for the first time, the census you can do online. Census material will start coming out in the households in March. You will have a household code. It's my understanding that as soon as you get your envelope or flyer or your information, you can go online and start responding to the census as soon as you get it. The big education piece that I feel will be important to people is to know that if you go online and if you call the 1-800 number that is not released yet, that's why it's not on the form, if you do that, you'll be checked off and there will not be a need for anyone to come knocking on your door. We know in this day and age, we don't necessarily answer the door to everybody who knocks. We have our older citizens that we don't want people just randomly knocking on the doors. And so using, the school is represented on the committee. The schools will be doing activities within the school to help educate the children so that when those forms come home, the children will go, oh, that's the census, and this is why it's important, and thus help the families fill it out. One of our goals is to have census activities throughout each of the districts, the libraries, fire departments, wherever is a hub that the community gathers, so that Wi-Fi that's available can be available for people to come in, use their phones or use the computers that are in the libraries to actually fill out and finish the census. April 1 is National Census Day. We have another meeting. We actually have monthly meetings, but in our January meeting, we're hoping to fine-tune what's going to be our big community event that focuses on the census on April 1, National Census Day. In order to accomplish these goals, the Caroline Count 2020 Complete Count Census Committee is in need of funding. We want to purchase banners and yard signs. We want to sponsor events and, again, plan a Census Day activity. And so we're coming to the board to request funds. Mr. Allen and I had discussed a figure of around $5,000. Of course, I'm open for any suggestions that are higher than that, of course. Just remember that each person counted brings approximately $2,000 more of federal funds to Caroline County. Are there any questions?
One of the things I really want to stress, so people, if they fill it out either electronically or by phone, nobody will come to their door, because I know that and the sheriff's office can probably be on the lookout for scams of people going to doors saying they're census folks when this gets out, trying to leverage people into things they shouldn't be doing. The other question I have, so when you talk the 5,000, it's for flyers and
Banners.
Are you going to do like campaign yard signs? Have you talked about doing something like that?
Yes, campaign yard signs and banners. We would like banners represented at some place in each of the districts, be it a firehouse, community center.
Have we talked to the volunteer fire departments? They all have those message boards and they can put, fill out your census on them?
That's all part of our using
Okay.
whatever media that's available. The committee do have representatives from each district.
Right.
And everyone has been charged with go home and see where we can put information in your neck of the woods.
Is the Census Bureau contributing anything to the committees?
Nothing that we've seen of yet.
Okay. I was just curious if it came with a budget or not, or if
Yes,
all the localities were.
We got one banner, no other census stuff. I did get an ink pen.
I was just curious, because that's the part you never hear about. They say the census, and they act like they're flooding everybody with dollars to do it. Questions from the board? Mrs. Long?
Yes, I don't really have a question, but both Mr. Black and I will be at the George Washington Regional Commission meeting on the 27th. That's where we heard from the state census representative. So we will get after them, because that's where I got the banners for the fair from that representative. So I'll see, and we'll lean on them a little bit for you.
Yes, we did get one banner, and I
We're
doctored
gonna
it
do
up
better than that.
with
We're
our
gonna do
Caroline
better than
logo,
that.
and we did participate in the Christmas parade.
What are
Y'all are
the,
doing great.
thank you, I'm sorry, Mrs. Long, what are the dates of the census? 1 April till, what is the
Information that
closing?
I've read seemed to say the end of July as far as the enumerators. You go to census.gov, and it's a lot of information to take in. I feel the part that we really need to push is that The forms will be coming out to your mailbox in March. It's going to be a staggered mail-in, and as soon as you get it, respond.
Okay.
So some of our community events, like Census Day at the libraries, would be, more of a March event, March, early April, to, put that information out and have activities. As soon as you get it, you are aware of it, fill it out, and then you don't have to worry about anyone knocking on your door unless they're lost.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Do we have all of your information on the county website?
That is part of what we're launching after tonight. I understand you have a resolution. And so we've talked about that, and I'm not sure who pushes the magic button, but our team is planning to do that.
We think Mr. Parton is the one who gathers everything.
He's going to push the magic button for you.
Okay.
Mr. Forehand?
Hello. Do y'all have a social media person that's going to spearhead social media posts and such?
Not yet,
Is
but
that
once
part
we
of it?
do the flyer, that's part of, you get it out through the connections that you have. It'll be posted on the website. Different committee members will post it at their churches, as well as any churches that have websites, our businesses, our schools. We've been meeting to kind of finalize this, and we just finished it at the first of the year. So tonight is sort of like our launching.
Okay. Also, I don't know if we have any numbers for sending something home with school children that lets parents know that it's coming, or when it's time, that's an avenue.
Several school employees are on the committee, and when we meet on the 27th, they'll be getting copies of this to take, and I will be meeting with Dr. Calveric this week and going through the proper approval process to get flyers out.
And that's something that the committee would pay for the copying fees, not.
That's
not the
part
school.
of the funding that we're asking for. It would cover the cost of all of those type of materials.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do we want to add, since we have a resolution coming up, do we want to add talking about the funding for that in cooperation with the resolution?
Makes sense to me.
Okay. Oh, that's fine.
All right, I'll make a motion that we provide initial funding in the amount of $5,000 for the census program.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you,
And she can
Mrs.
just,
Rollins.
so I'm clear, if they decide they have a great idea, they want to come back for
Right.
$2,000 more, it's.
I was just thinking about, like, there's a billboard coming into Bowling Green, and there's a billboard out on 207. I don't know what those cost.
Send me the information
I'll
of who
have
I
to-
would need to
I'll have
contact.
to look. At one point in time, I knew the folks that owned those.
Okay.
All right?
All right, so thank you very much, and I'd like to close with this little ditty that I want to get stuck in your brains. I count, you count, your family counts too. I count, you count, your neighbors count too. The census count people, make sure it counts you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appointments. I will lead off with, I have an appointment to the Planning Commission, Mr. Robert Schwartz. Can I get a motion to appoint Mr. Schwartz? Well, I can.
I'll make the motion for you, Mr. Robert Schwartz for Planning Commission in Bowling Green. He's replacing.
He is replacing Les Stanley, who's had to end his term early due to a family situation. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second? So he's filling an
The motion
unexpired
is to
term.
fill a term.
Right, unexpired term. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries, thank you. The next is the Broadband Advisory Committee, and Mr. Thomas, you and I need to talk about the two applications. Can we postpone this one till the 28th?
We can.
Does it matter that one of them's not signed?
Well, I just think we just got the applications. I think Mr. Thomas and I just need to talk about it. So I'm going to take that one off for tonight. Recreation Advisory Committee, Worcester Caroline, Mr. Black.
Yeah, after a very long and extensive search, this was not easy, I'd like to nominate Kathy LaRocca to the...
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You're sure you want to do that?
I think so.
Okay.
It's an extensive search.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Did you at least ask if you wanted to serve?
I wasn't going to go there. Did she get a dog out of this deal? Oh, now I got the formula. Yeah, she really wants this position. Do we need to vote that a second time, make sure she heard us? Put a ring on it. Social Services Board Member, Western Carolina, is she doing this one too?
No, actually. I'm going to renominate Mr. Sean Kiger.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mattapan District, Mr. Thomas.
That's mine. My appointee just recently resigned, so I need to figure out another thing to make sure we
Okay,
have
so
somebody.
we'll come back. We'll take that out for tonight. Board of Zoning Appeals at large. I actually didn't ask somebody, but is anybody if you have somebody, that's great.
It's my understanding that Mr. Satterwhite wants to serve another term. Is that
Oh, okay.
true? Mr. Fincham, is that true?
That's fine. I thought we were going without.
Yes, Mr. Satterwhite's term is up as the at-large rep, and
He wants to come back?
he's willing to come back.
I missed
That is
that.
my motion, sir.
Mr. Fincham, before you leave, they meet probably 4 times a year at the most.
On a good year.
Thank you.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Consent agenda.
Chairman Seeley, I'd like to have just a mention or a question on C. And I can do that right now. It's just.
Well, I think we should talk about it. I was going to pull
I have a
C just
question
to talk
as well
about
on
it.
that.
Okay.
So let's pull that.
one.
The legislative agenda, I think there's a couple things to talk about. I just want to point some things out, if we could pull that, if that's okay.
So we're going to adopt A, B, D, and F.
Yes, sir, if you'll make that motion.
So moved. We
I have a
adopt
motion
A,
to-
B, D, and F.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
No, not yet. Let's do these 3.
Agenda item C. Mrs. Long.
My only question, and I've spoken to Park and Recs around that, on the list of trees, although it says others can be requested, is that I really think we should have the dogwood tree or state tree listed in writing, and they have no issue with that. So I'd like to add the dogwood to the list of ornamental trees.
Is that considered an ornamental tree?
Yes.
It's a state tree.
It's an ornamental.
So we have
And
I got
it's
no
a state tree.
opposition to the dogwood.
It's our state tree. It is our state
But number 7
tree.
is other
Go ahead.
ornamentals.
Agreed. I have issue with requiring a certified contractor to plant said state tree. And I think it's a
Here-
undue burden on someone that wants to plant a darn tree.
Here's the only thing I will say about, we need to make sure that the hole that gets created for the tree is at least twice the size of the root ball that the tree comes as.
3 times, 4 times, even better.
Right, be at least double the size, or it's got
Yeah.
very little chance of surviving.
Yeah.
And that's why, you may almost need an auger to dig a hole that size in the ground over there. And the backfill is also equally as important because I'm not sure you want to put the same soil back, and it needs to be staked.
Depending on the tree, yes.
Well, I think no matter what new tree, depending on the height, you're going to need to stake it. I just think those parameters, everybody needs to be aware of what those are and the size of the hole and staking it. And when you stake a tree, there's all kinds of criteria so you don't
Right, I
destroy
think we could
it.
give them an information sheet that says, do X, Y, and Z to make, I feel like I'm capable of planting a tree if I wanted to donate one, and I would gladly dig a large hole, and I put myself in the situation that if I wanted to come water it when it was dry, and it says exclusively maintained, and anyway, that's just my perspective on it.
I don't have there are some parameters to a new tree that sometimes people who aren't agriculturally minded may not realize.
That I understand.
And then, what I don't want it to, if they plant it, whoever plants a tree, and I think it says it in here, it's at their own, it may not survive.
There's no guarantee that it's going to live where they
Correct.
planted, right?
But the backfilling of it with soil that's going to actually help that and actually have that kind of soil underneath it so the hole is deep. There's just a lot of things and how the tree gets put in the ground. You can't bury the trunk. That's why I think that, Mrs. Long?
My suggestion would be that the application, they're going to have to fill out an application, that they be given a choice. We could have even a list of people who professionally would do this, their contact information. But if someone wants to do it themselves, they don't do it right, tree's not going to live. I'm wondering about getting somebody professionally. If they have a choice, at least you're not putting an unfair burden on someone who wants to do something in honor of someone. So perhaps we could have it both ways as long as our insurance covers that.
Yeah, Mr. Culley's saying the cemetery doesn't let you put a headstone in, even though people could. I don't have a problem with them planting. Do we want to pull this back and at least look at that? Because it's a little hard to, although I do have one person that's contacted me that wants to do something. So we can amend this based on board comments tonight and move this forward. I don't have a problem with that either.
I don't want to slow it down, but at the same time, I don't also want to require someone to go out and spend $250 to plant a tree. If they're capable and are able to watch a YouTube video on how to correctly plant a tree. So,
Is there a happy medium between the two? Because if Clay goes out, like he says, and plants a tree, because he thinks he can do it, and it dies, it's on him.
yeah, it's on me.
But if he goes out and gets a contractor to do it, and it dies, it's on him still.
Lowe's will still give me a replacement tree.
The contractor
I'm
may give
taking
you
the stub,
right.
you know.
He may give you a replacement if it's Lowe's or one of those.
I don't have a, Mr. Schiebel, is there any downside to somebody if you X marks the spot where the tree goes? Of who?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, riding around with,
If they're going to do it by hand, then they can. Why don't they just get approval from Mr. Schiebel, one way or the
That's
other?
fine. Have the methods pre-approved by.
Get approved by Mr. Schiebel.
Mr. Schiebel, we can have them go to you. Dr. Calveric, I need you to sit.
I apologize, but I am being asked to mention the agricultural class at the high school as a viable option.
I like that too.
I mean, we can leave this up to whoever wants to plant the tree.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with that.
If Mr. Schiebel's fine with the plan, then if we want to direct him
Mr.
to that.
Schiebel, can you list options, if there are other options that we're not thinking of tonight? Whether it's the high school, whether it's the garden club, whether it's Future Farmers of America. There's a ton of organizations around that could do it.
Clay and a shovel.
What's that?
Clay and a shovel.
And Mr. Forehand says he'll actually go dig holes, so
I have a few to dig out there.
I understand. So we're going to modify this tonight. We will take out the, I've got to find it.
Take out the requirement for contractors.
Okay, so we're going to take out the bonded licensed contractor requirement and change that with, Mr. Sheba will have a list of organizations that could help, and you can do it yourself with some sort of instruction sheet on how to plant a tree, which I'm sure there are a zillion places that do that.
The interwebs can help us.
That's fair.
I'm good with that.
Are we,
fair.
everybody, are we kind of clear as mud on what we're doing?
No, I think that's clear. Move
Okay.
forward to approve that one.
I'll take a motion to approve consent item C as modified by the board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item E.
He's the VACO agenda.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are actually in here. Mr. Thomas and I talked about a couple, haven't been on the board a long time, and I'll start with that one, is that I have never heard of inclusionary zoning, which is on page 6 at the top, under, it's actually part of local land use authority and affordable housing. Enhanced local authority to promote affordable housing and inclusionary zoning is important to facilitate workforce housing. I don't know what that means, but it's in our Region 7 legislative issues. I just found that interesting wording, and I don't know what it means. And I thought maybe Mr. James would be here tonight, but he is not. One of the others that I think is a little, they talk about B-pole and machine and tool tax, the ability for us to lose that. We've talked about that in the past. It is one of those. Those two items are very important to us. Anybody that gets to the General Assembly, those are very important. And devolution is back in our packet again, which would give counties the roads to take care of with probably very little funding. But I'm just pointing out that it's back, and it's the other one that I think is interesting is the state funding for local and regional jails. They've cut funding for that from 14 to 12 and from 8 to 4, and it was an unfunded mandate to us. Just pointing out that it's back. It needs to go back up. Just a couple of things. I don't know if anybody else looked at this or read it, but
Yeah, it just makes you wonder why they're there. If they wouldn't be in this document if there weren't something pre-filed that would, or my assumption is there wouldn't be in this document if there weren't something pre-filed that we need to take a stand against. And
correct.
Yeah, but some have been historic issues.
correct.
We've
The B-poll.
Yeah,
as an
regardless of
example,
who's in control in Richmond.
Yes.
VACO
Yes.
has come out in favor or against certain things, so some of those are. And I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Sure.
we never figure out where to put this, but we need to talk about 301 or South 301 as a main thoroughfare and expanding that to 4-lane from Caroline to Hanover. Mrs. Long and I think, have been involved in the routing of traffic from Maryland to 95, but no one seems to realize that there is a parallel road that could use a lot of improvement. So if we could add on our state transportation, increasing the capacity on 301 South.
South of Bowling Green.
South of Bowling Green, because it's interesting that if you look in this, you'll see that Stafford is asking for 8 lanes rather than 6 that aren't part of HOV, which I thought was interesting in here. Not that anybody doesn't drive occasionally that way, Mr. Thomas, but we all avoid it.
I drive there frequently, and 8 lanes would be glorious.
Mr. Seeley?
It was less traffic when it was less lanes.
Mr. Seeley?
It really was.
Mr. Black?
Can we, on those questions, can you send Mr. James an email so maybe we can see if we can get an answer on those as well. There will be, I believe, we'll have a VACO meeting sometime here in the county in March. I believe we have to set it up. That's not the VACO government day. VACO, the actual committee, needs to meet, and I think we're going to be meeting here in Caroline sometime in March.
Okay.
So we'll announce that, but some of those questions for next year can be asked as well.
I'll pull these pages so I remember, because I read through these and marked them up. Nothing we can do, they were items that I just wanted everybody to be aware of that I thought were interesting. Mrs. Long?
Do we wait to adopt this? No, we still adopt this.
We're
Okay.
going to adopt, they're watch items. I know that we're against, but I wanted everybody aware that they're probably in here, as has been mentioned, because there is legislation
Yes,
dropped on them.
Yeah, we need to adopt this. What's the legislative day is
February
February?
6th.
So we don't have any, okay. Fine. Thank you.
With that, I'll take a motion to adopt item E
So moved.
with the ads that we've discussed, and we'll get email sent to Eldon James.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So that takes care of consent. Yeah, because it's 20 hours. If we take, do we want to,
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back and address items.
yeah, we're going to rearrange some of the items so that we can, let's be back at 7:30 to pick up the meeting. But that clock in the back of my watch says 7:20.
Yep, 7:21.
7:21, so 7:31.
I don't have the ability.
So we're now on break.
I got
We're going to come back into session. We're going to do a couple of agenda items before we go to public comment. I'm going to start with agenda item number 9. Are you doing that, Mr. Cully?
I can. We have been trying to get this done for a while, but we had budgeted both the records management system for about $499,000 and generators for admin, fire rescue, public safety building, and sheriff's office. And we were struggling getting some estimates on some of those generators, so that's what took so long. But we do have, and you saw in your memo that the generators did come in for more than what we had anticipated, but it's our recommendation that we were going to finance it anyway. We go in and finance all of it. We thought we could do one generator on the sheriff's 3-meter, 2 buildings with 3 meters, but after meeting with vendors, they felt that was going to be too complicated to do, so it's some individual generators on the sheriff's buildings that we hadn't anticipated. And then the generator on our building was larger than we anticipated the need for, but in that the whole computer network for the whole county runs out of our building. And anyway, those are the projects, and this is to put an RFP out for financing. And so we requested the board let us authorize Davenport to put an RFP out for financing now that we've got some estimates on the cost.
Questions?
Question, to make sure, Mr. Cully, the records management system has been already selected via an RFP, or they're being selected based on another contract that exists?
They selected on another contract, I think, that's going back in memory, I think it's Orange County.
That's what it says.
And so that does have the language to allow us to ride off of that contract.
Okay. And we had a comparison cost of what it was to upgrade, more to upgrade our system than to buy this new one?
The sheriff's office had worked on that, and Mike can answer those questions in more detail than I can. The fire only uses the CAD part of that, so the records management side of that's all in-house with the sheriff's office, but I know that it allows them to use some of their e-ticket and some of that, and we do recommend as you move forward, we'll use some of that money we've been collecting on tickets to help offset the cost of that. But I think the system they have, so it would be pretty much a new lift, a new system. It's not like a few upgrades, is my understanding.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were comparing the same thing. It was a new system versus trying to upgrade or patch the one you had before, and I think Major Mosier had said the one you had before was beyond patching.
Yeah, the end of life on the other system, they don't support it any longer. They did come back with a proposal. It was much higher than the actual bid we had for a whole new system. I think by $100,000.
Thank you, sir.
So my only, any other board members, because I just had one, that we had collected $322,000 in the 5% on tickets. Is that true, or is it $15,000 on the 5% on tickets?
I don't have the numbers that we've been collecting for a number of years, the additional fines, but I don't know the numbers that can be associated with e-tickets.
Mr. Pardon, can you?
Alan,
Mr. Chairman, I had checked with the treasurer on that a while back, and I think the number at that point was $240,000. So we added another $5,000 as an approximate number, but according to the treasurer, a good ballpark is about $245,000 collected to date.
And we're going to spend all of that on computers for deputies in cars, is my understanding. So that won't go in the record management system at all.
Right. I think the majority of that funding will be taken up with what I call the secondary items, and not. But as you continue to collect it, of course, it's available for the hardware or to reimburse the hardware.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I'll take a motion to go out for RFP for the financing for the records management system and the emergency backup generators.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I'm going to jump to 11B and work out and talk about the work sessions with the school system. I know that Dr. Calveric has communicated to Mr. Cully that the 28th of January, an hour before our meeting, so roughly 5 o'clock. Everybody can do 5 o'clock to actually do a work session with the schools on budget. And then Mr. Thomas and I have talked, and we're looking at the first meeting in February at 5 o'clock to do a work session with the sheriff's office. So 2/11 at 5 o'clock also. But in addition to that, I think that there's some additional information. We're going to talk budget with the sheriff that evening, but I think just to make sure we're all on the same page, we just want to go over some things that the board has talked about in terms of budget.
Some background information that's been for the statements in some of the news media that where I'm going to talk into it.
Yeah.
I'm the one that does a lot of talking. In September 2017, the Caroline Board of Supervisors implemented pay raises for county employees based on results of a pay study completed by an independent consultant. The study undertook a thorough, comprehensive review of the county's compensation structure and the regional market competitiveness of its salaries. County salaries were compared to 8 other localities: Dinwiddie, Hanover, King George, King William, Orange, Powhatan, Prince George, and Spotsylvania, selected by the consultant based on demographics, comparable levels of services provided to citizens, and geographic proximity to Caroline. The resulting employee raises, which increased the county's payroll by approximately $1.1 million, included all sheriff's office personnel except the sheriff himself because he is a constitutional officer. No constitutional officers received pay increases as a result of the salary study. In July 2019, all county employees, including the sheriff's office, received a 2% cost of living increase and were eligible for up to an additional 3% merit increase based on performance review. All told, $650,000 was budgeted to implement further employee pay increases in the current fiscal year, FY19, FY 2019-2020. In addition to pay increases, the board has also contributed more county funds in recent years to keep health and dental insurance costs at an affordable and attractive rates for employees. The sheriff has also publicized that his total law enforcement budget for FY 2019-2020 is $4,695,399, and that approximately $1.3 million of the total comes from the State Compensation Board. In comparison, the Department of Fire and Rescue budget is $5,643,250, for the same fiscal year. However, this analysis failed to mention that Fire and Rescue's budget is supported by nearly $1 million in revenue from ambulance service recovery fees paid by the patient's insurance company. The sheriff has indicated that firefighter EMTs in the Department of Fire Rescue are placed at a higher grade on the county's pay scale than deputies. This is based on the independent recommendation of the consultant firm that completed the compensation study, and it was a result of the analysis of the training requirements for each position. Further, when average salary is compared on an hourly basis, the minimum hourly rate for a deputy is actually $4 more than a firefighter medic. The firefighter medic works 676 more hours prior to overtime for the salary. Recently, the sheriff, in a letter delivered to the board on Monday, December 16, 2019, proposed that each sworn member of his staff receive an immediate $4,000 raise, plus an additional $10,000 raise in the next fiscal year. This would have cost approximately $238,000 in the current fiscal year and nearly $600,000 more in FY 2021. If you include similar raises for the Department of Fire and Rescue employees who make less per hour and to maintain a fairness in the public safety realm, it adds another $210,000 in salary costs in the current fiscal year and $525,000 in FY 21. All told, the sheriff's proposed pay increases alone total approximately $838,000. The Board of Supervisors would either have to raise the real estate tax rate by over 3 cents or cut an equivalent amount from somewhere else in the budget to make this happen. When Fire and Rescue salaries are factored in, the total cost increases to $1,570,000. To fund this total, either a real estate tax increase of 6 cents or major cuts in the existing budget would be needed. In addition, implementing these hand-picked pay increases without thinking them through may result in deputies being paid more than supervisory staff in other departments. This would severely compromise the integrity of the county's pay plan put in place at the recommendation of a consultant and likely result in a chain reaction of needed pay increases. Caroline County public school employees would be next in line seeking pay increases. If the cost to the taxpayer for raises for 94 public safety employees is $1,570,000 and requires a 6-cent tax increase, the cost for adding 315 teachers would be at least 3 times that cost, or another 18 cents on the real estate rate. There are also another 233 full-time school employees that are not teachers. An additional 12-cent tax increase would be needed for raises for these employees. If you add up all the needed tax increases, it amounts to 6 cents for public safety and 30 cents for schools. The real estate tax rate would increase from 83 cents to $1.19 per hundred of assessed value, and you would still have hundreds of county employees with no pay increases. This is why Caroline County is not in a position to get in a bidding war with large localities and localities influenced by Northern Virginia salaries for public safety or schools. What Caroline does offer is a much lower cost of living. In addition, we believe there are other factors outside of pay that significantly contribute to the sheriff's current inability to hire deputies. These factors can be summarized as follows. The sheriff advertises for vacancies through his Facebook page exclusively. He does not use specialized recruitment websites such as Indeed, LinkedIn, or Monster.com that are often highly effective in today's job market. The sheriff has also chosen not to advertise on Caroline County's website, which offers a comprehensive, fully automated process. We believe this limited outreach hampers the sheriff's office's ability to effectively get the word out about employment opportunities in his department. All new deputies at the sheriff's office must start at the minimum salary of the pay grade, regardless of their year's experience with another locality. This naturally limits the pool of experienced candidates who are willing to come to Caroline. The county should be able to recruit deputies from smaller localities that cannot match our salaries, just as Caroline loses deputies to larger localities to the north and south. However, few deputies with experience in smaller localities are likely to make the move to Caroline if they have to start at the very bottom of the pay scale. In closing, the Board of Supervisors is willing to consider reasonable measures to help recruit and retain deputies in the sheriff's office at the appropriate time in the upcoming FY21 budget process. The measures considered may or may not involve pay increases. However, a comprehensive solution to the sheriff's office's current inability to fill vacancies must come from a variety of measures, including a better effort to publicize openings and a change in the sheriff's pay practices.
Thank you, Mr. Cully. Board members' comments?
Before we go
Mr.
on,
Thomas?
I think we should formalize, I'm going to make a motion to formalize our meeting on the 28th at 5 with the schools and our meeting on the 11th at 5 with the sheriff. Both of those will be our initial budget work session meetings, which are normally
held later on in March, but that'll give us a chance to get a head start. So that's a motion. If there's a
Thomas
second.
has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Cully. We will now move on to public comment. Anybody wishing to speak has 3 minutes, but if you're going to speak, I'd ask everybody to come down. There's seats down here down front so that we don't have the long wait time between people walking down. So if you're going to speak, come on down and take one of the front seats so that we don't have to wait for everybody to walk down between each speaker. Well, she was sitting in front.
First one.
She started in the back. She came down front. Good move.
Everybody just doesn't want to sit in the front row. Not everybody. Social services is right down front. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for sitting up front. All right, I am now going to open public comment.
Hello, Mr. Chair Seeley and Mr. Vice Chair Mr. Thomas. My name is Sharika Twiner, and I'm here on behalf of the YMCA and the Polar Bear Plunge. I just wanted to announce to you all that in the effort to give community involvement through Polar Bear Plunge, we are making an effort for citizens to support local restaurants with some spirit nights to support the Polar Bear Plunge. The restaurants participating are Los Dos Amigos on January 18th, Giuseppe's on January 21st, Roma's on January 23rd, and Mi Jalisco on January 27th. So again, it's an effort for community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I missed the dates, but I'll get them.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Scott Mosier. I'm in the Bowling Green District. I certainly applaud you for meeting with the sheriff in reference to the budget, upcoming budget for the officers. Honestly, I hate to see us come to this point. It seems like we're getting into a political battle here using the press. And the information that was read tonight is pretty much the first time we've heard some of that. So it's really concerning that we really need to open up the lines of communication between the board and the sheriff's office. I've been here over 31 years with the Carolina Sheriff's Office, and I can tell you that for the first time in the 31 years doing an interview panel, I've had individuals walk out of the interview panel saying, hey, I can't work for that amount of money. It's no sense us even conducting an interview. So that's alarming. That's why we're in a crisis. It's very difficult to hire people with that kind of salary for starting salary. There's all kinds of debates we can have about the starting salary and starting somebody at based on their experience. That is a whole other issue for morale and all these officers. And it's certainly not fair to the men and women who have 10 years with Caroline County to start somebody else with more money than they have just because they come from another jurisdiction when their true experience is here with Caroline County. We realize that our greatest asset is our employees, and I would hope that y'all would realize that as well. Not just the sheriff's office, but also your county employees, your county staff, and the school. The employees are our greatest asset, and we just hope that you come into those meetings with an open mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board. My name is Travis Nutter. I live in the Madison District, and I've been an employee with the Sheriff's Office here for 19 years. Like the Major said, I applaud your guys' willingness to meet with the Sheriff and have budget talks, and hopefully everyone can come to some positive resolutions through that. But I wanted to take the time this evening to say, and just being transparent, when I started in Caroline 19 years ago, I didn't intend on staying here. And back then, we paid less than other people around us. But also back then, things were a lot different. Not long after, a couple years after I came here, Sheriff Lippa took over. There was another sheriff here before then when I first started. And things started changing. Things started changing positively. We got new vehicles. We got new equipment. We actually had computers, which back then, a lot of you probably already know the only computers we had said IBM on them, and they were in the records room. cameras in our cars and updated training. Next thing you know, we were accredited. And I was excited about this stuff. I was proud of it. And I wanted to stay in Carolina. And in addition to that, by the time all that transpired, I had been here long enough to where I developed some really strong relationships. And I absolutely love where I work. I love this county. I work with a lot of great people. And I don't just mean the sheriff's office. Countywide, we do have a lot of great people. We really do. I work with the schools very often, with Public Works, with all different branches of the county. And there's a lot of people in this county that I care about. Several of you I have regular conversations with. I feel like I can pick up the phone and call and talk about things. And that means a lot to me. And I don't want to be anywhere else but Caroline County. I love it here. I love where I work. I love this county. But my point being is that if today I were that 24-year-old kid starting working here, I don't think that story would probably turn out the same. And I do appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the pay study that you did. And I know that you guys don't always have easy decisions to make. You have a whole county you're responsible for. And I really do appreciate the job that you guys do. But we've gotten to a point, and there was some coverage on the news. Some of it was accurate. Some of it was a little off. But just to give you an example, Spotsylvania and Stafford, and I know we're not Spotsy and Stafford, I realize that, but they've gotten to the point where they're starting at about $10,000 more a year than us now. And imagine if I was that 24-year-old kid today starting here. I don't think I would have gotten to that point and developed those relationships that I did, because that's $833 a month. That's a lot of money. And like I said, I do appreciate what you guys have done, but I think this is something that really does need to be taken a serious look at. Because it means a lot for the future of the Sheriff's Office, that Sheriff Lippa and all of us have worked really hard to get to the point where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, my name is Mark Gaines. I live in Carolina and in Bowling Green. I know y'all did a pay study, and I know y'all fell under the same deal that Tony Lippa's fallen under. You had people working for you in the county as your waterworks, your sewer, your grounds. Y'all had to up your pay in order to keep people, because y'all were lower than the surrounding counties around here. So, I mean, everybody's been in the same boat. You raised the fire department up for the same reason. Teachers need to go up because we have the same problem with them. Carolina is known as a stepping stone. You know, we get people come in here to get trained and then move on somewhere else. It's time to start retaining these people. You know, they're good, hardworking people that want to live in the county. And I didn't like the comment about you get more here because they're cheaper, a lower income or lower living. We don't need to be. We bought a lot of this upon ourselves. So it's time we need to start pulling ourselves out of it. We need to start increasing, getting better people down here, retaining them, and let's try to do things to straighten up Caroline County. We are a rural area. We're classified rural. So we don't have a lot to pull from to get income in here. So we got to figure out some way, somehow, to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is David Lipscomb. I reside in Mr. Underwood's district. Also a part business owner with my wife in the Bowling Green district, as well as a clergyman in the Bowling Green district. And just for transparency, I spent 13 and a half years with Carolina Sheriff's Office before being hired as the town police chief in the town of Bowling Green. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I heard some interest in advertisement, and I heard the word Indeed, and I just wanted to bring you to your attention. I'm sure you already know that I did a little Google search the other day on Indeed and found that there was an opening for correctional officers at the Carolina Detention Center, which was the old Newmassett Creek Regional Jail, and that officer position started out at over $44,000 a year. Which was a little odd to me. It actually matched more in line with what King George County Sheriff's Office starts their deputies at than what Caroline does, obviously. My concern with that is these jail officers, the town of Bowling Green as well as Carolina Sheriff's Office were one of the original 20-member agencies to form the Rappahannock Regional Criminal Justice Academy. And a couple years ago, when the board thought it to be a good idea to open that correctional facility, and of course get jobs back here in Caroline County, which is a wonderful thing, that agency came to the board meeting, to the charter board meeting, to gain entry for their training purposes. And to date, they are still not accredited with the Department of Criminal Justice Services as jail officers. I can't believe that, likewise, they fall under federal training requirements, or else they wouldn't be at Rappahannock Regional Criminal Justice Academy in the first place. So what I find is we have jail officers, while not highly untrained, I'm sure they're highly trained because they get their training at the same place we all do. When they walk across the stage to receive their certificates, they get a participation certificate instead of a jail officer certificate. And I was just wondering, because we did have an escape, which from a public safety standpoint was a bad situation, and this gentleman was recovered in the town of Bowling Green. So I'm a little concerned that even if the sheriff advertises his deputy positions on Indeed, will they match what already exists at the county level for the jail down there? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors. My name is Richard Wilcox, and I reside in Bowling Green District. I have lived in Caroline for most of my adult life, and like you, have a vested interest in this county. I am currently a federal police officer with close to 40 years of law enforcement experience. Earlier in my career, I had the honor to serve this community as a deputy sheriff. I was proud to wear that uniform and saw the positive impact that our deputies have on this community. The reason I left Caroline County is an issue that has long plagued the Sheriff's Department, which is why I'm here today, the undercompensation of our deputies. Many of them have answered the call into law enforcement not to be the next John D. Rockefeller, certainly, but to selflessly serve and protect our citizens. They sacrifice special moments with their families, their own personal safety, and sometimes their own money so that we may feel safe and cared for. And sometimes our expectations of Sheriff Lipa and his deputies that they professionally, competently, and honorably serve and protect our community. It is my professional and personal opinion that Sheriff Lipa and his staff have done just that, an outstanding job at doing just what we have asked them to do, given the limited resources available to them. As a police officer who has been responsible for assisting in securing my agency's budgetary needs, I understand firsthand how important it is to have the support of those who are in charge of the purse strings. Like Sheriff Lipa's budget, a large portion of my agency's operating expenses is simply for the salary and benefits of our officers. We, too, had difficulty with securing top talent and maintaining adequate staffing levels until we vested finances into our personnel and raised our salaries to be competitive and comparable with surrounding agencies. This in itself saved our agency money associated with training costs and recruitment. More importantly, the number of officers who left for better paying jobs elsewhere drastically decreased. I believe that this mindset is vital for our own Sheriff's Department. I'm respectfully asking all of you to consider the points made here tonight and provide Sheriff Lipa with the increase he needs in order to be competitive with surrounding agencies. Caroline is not keeping up with the rate of inflation, and under the current pay scale, our deputies are inadequately paid for the caliber of services that they provide. The service that these trained professionals provide our community is invaluable, to say the least. We need to do the right thing and show these deputies we appreciate the sacrifices that they make to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. You've heard the term
Can you give us your name and if you live in Caroline, what district?
My name is Andrew Williams. Work for the Sheriff's Office. I don't live in Caroline at the moment. I've been working for the Sheriff's Office here for 3 years. I have a total of 8 years in law enforcement. You've heard the term crisis as it applies to our staff shortage. I'd like to enlighten you tonight what that looks like for those of us that work the streets. Currently, I've been here for 3 years. For those entire 3 years, I've been on evening shift. Evening shift for us is 5 deputies and a sergeant. 5 deputies doesn't sound like much when you consider the square footage of Caroline County is 530 some odd square miles. Consider the fact that in the 3 years I've been here, not once have I worked on a full shift. Currently, we have 3 deputies and a sergeant. 3 deputies for the entire county. I can't count how many times I've come to work and been responsible for everything east of the Route 301, Route 2 corridor. There's been multiple times I've been on the Hanover County line and responded to a call for service in the Port Royal area, which is about a 40-minute drive. To me, a 40-minute response time is unacceptable from your first responders, and I hope you feel the same way. Part of the reason I feel we have this staff shortage is we can't compete with surrounding jurisdictions when it comes to starting salary. When you can literally drive 15 minutes and be in a jurisdiction that pays $8,000 to $10,000 more as a 21-year-old, it's a no-brainer. Why would you want to come work here when you can make $8,000 to $10,000 more? We have a hard time keeping qualified deputies, keeping experienced deputies, because they can drive 15 minutes across the county line and be making $10,000 more. In the 3 years that I've been here, I've had the opportunity to seek additional training. One of those trainings is to become a field training officer, which means I'm responsible for training new deputies as they come out of the academy. One of the biggest lessons I try to teach them is that you have to pay attention to what your people are doing and manage your people, where they are, what they're doing, who's busy and who's not. Because with only 3 deputies working on a shift, if somebody's handling a call and another deputy is maybe taking somebody to jail or they're busy handling another call, you're by yourself in the entire county. So you see a vehicle swerve a little bit too much or speed a little too fast. Maybe you let that slide, because if that vehicle decides that they don't want to stop or they've decided they don't want to go to jail tonight, we have no help. You're by yourself and you have no help coming because we don't have enough people to fill even one evening shift. I'd like to thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I'm Danny Carter. I live in the West Carolina district. And listening to the speakers tonight, they allude to the ones that have been here prior to Sheriff Lippa's tenure. And I remember the Sheriff's Department back in the 60s and the 70s. And I look at what we have now in comparison to what we had at that point. I also understand business, and y'all as a county administrators have a business to run. And part of the business of the county is to support the departments that make our county safe. Now, given that, part of it is recruiting quality employees, whether it's in other departments or the Sheriff's Department. So given that, the Sheriff has put together a good department, recruiting quality people is paramount to providing the security that we all have and want. I have a number of businesses at the county, and I'm assured that if something goes wrong, I can make a phone call, and there will be a deputy there. I can only wish that that y'all would address the issue and hopefully correct the pay discrepancies that exist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is David Kirk Robinette. I currently serve in the community as a servant of Christ, a pastor, and I work at DK Firearms. I retired from the military after serving on active duty, the reserves, and in the National Guard. I also served in law enforcement in Christian County, Kentucky. Tonight I wear my FOP Kentucky law enforcement shirt. These gentlemen serve long hours, nights, weekends, holidays, and not necessarily all the time safe. I know a number of the officers here, and they serve for the right reasons. Now, do I know the situation that has brought us here tonight? No, I don't. I plead ignorance. And that's okay, because we're here tonight. If funding is available in the county, we just need to find a solution. Whatever it was prior to this needs to just stop, and we need to fix it. That's the answer. We need just to find a solution. If other funds are available, grants or those types of things are available federally, and you need help to get those things written, some of you have my telephone number. Please call me. I'll be more than happy to help find funds if federal grants are needed. Please. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Griffin. I live in Stafford County, but I heard Sheriff Lippa needed help, so I came straight after work. I haven't even had time to eat yet today. We are currently in a booming economy. Competition is high. It's sad to see Sheriff Lippa being unable to hire the deputies he needs and keep the ones he already has because Caroline can't pay competitively. I'm here to tell you expansion is coming whether you like it or not. You can't stop it. I work in land surveying, and I see it all day, every day. This area will look just like Fairfax County in 20 years. Law enforcement is an extremely important facet of our county's responsibilities. Important facet of a county's responsibilities. Sorry. Your county is going to experience an unprecedented boom in the following years, and this problem is just going to fester under the increased pressure of expansion. So I ask you this, when it really matters, and you need an officer right here, right now to protect you, are you okay knowing they might be 45 minutes, an hour away because the county couldn't afford to hire another deputy? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Do you live in Ladysmith? Is that what you're...
I live in Stafford County.
Stafford, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm Tammy Gaines. I'm a resident of the town of Bowling Green, also on the town council of the town of Bowling Green, also a business owner. And my concern is safety as a woman, as a mother, as a grandmother. We are right in the middle of 301 and 95. There's high concern for human trafficking, which is on the influx like crazy. That should be on our top priority. We have a detention center that's new to the area that is a big safety concern. We're right in the middle of Richmond and D.C., two major cities. When the deputy got up here and just told me that there's only 5 on staff at night, really concerns me. We have got to step up and fund the county, get the deputies on board, keep the ones we have. When I hear we only have 4 retired, I believe he said, total of 7 in 40 years. That's very sad. We need to keep good employees. We need to keep them in the county. We don't need to recruit from smaller counties and then have to train them for a year for them to look elsewhere. Please, please, as a mother, as a grandmother, and as a woman, please consider funding our sheriff's department and supporting the citizen safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Terry Southworth, the clerk of the Caroline General District Court. I've worked for the General District Court for 24 years. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. We're not going to be talking about the sheriff's office. I come before you tonight to inform you of a bill that was adopted in 2008 and request a salary supplement for the employees of the Caroline General District Court. In 2008, House Bill 1542 and Senate Bill 112 were adopted, deleting from state law the prohibition against local governments supplementing the salaries of the General District Court clerks and deputy clerks. Statute 16.1-69.45 includes, any county or city may supplement the salaries of the clerks and other personnel of the district court wholly out of local funds. Local governments, including Caroline County, can and do supplement the salaries of constitutional officers and their employees. The General District Court has 5 full-time employees, including myself, and a 20-hour part-time employee. The senior-most employee has 22 years of service, and the shortest period of employment is 6 months. The salaries on average are $15.80 per hour. These employees do not receive any benefits from the county. They are on state-funded insurance, and all leave is accrued through and paid by the state. We process and handle an average of 18,000 cases per year. A major part of the processing of those cases is collecting the fines and costs associated with them. In the handouts that I have given you is a breakdown of the monies that we collect. We have collected $2.4 million in the past 3 years, $1.7 million in fines, $75,000 for courthouse maintenance fees, $57,000 for sheriff's fees, $364,000 in courthouse security fees, and about $255,000 in e-summons fees, to name a few. These monies are generated by other entities, but are collected and distributed by the General District Court. Checks are generated each month by the General District Court and distributed to the Caroline Circuit Court and the Caroline Treasurer for all fines and costs collected. I have also included in the handout the current Virginia localities providing salary supplements to district court employees as of September 2019. There are 28 courts in 17 counties with a total of 414 employees. We expect that total to increase in the next update. All the employees of the Caroline General District Court are county residents. We live here, shop here, pay taxes here. We have a job that contributes an integral part to the county. Our office is the only face of Caroline County that a lot of people see. We work
Mrs.
hard.
Southworth, can you wrap up because your 3 minutes is up?
We work hard and do a good job at our job. We ask that the board please take our request into close consideration when approving the budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, board members. My name is Lisa Harvey. I am the 911 Center Manager. I manage the CAD system, the radio system, and the phone system.
What district are you in?
I don't live in Carolina. I lived here for 16 years, but I don't do that today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I've been with the county since 1995. I've seen a lot of changes, and I'm looking forward to the changes that are coming in this year with our next-gen 911 system. I'm here to talk about the dispatch center. Our dispatch center, we still have the same amount of people that we had when I got hired. There's 5 compensation board members from the sheriff's office. When we merged with Fire and Rescue, we became a 13 people center, and that was in 2007. So we haven't had an increase in personnel in the 911 center in a very long time. 2005. Unlike the deputies, I can't let my 911 center go unstaffed. It's like Deputy Andrews says, if there's no deputies, they just work short, and it is something that the deputies do. I can't work short. I can't let a phone ring forever. I can't let the fire be unanswered. I have to have personnel. To the point that my first paycheck in September, I have worked so much overtime. My first paycheck in September, I made my annual salary. I'm not the only one that works overtime. We have to have so many people in the center to answer the call. We take about 100,000 phone calls into the center, which equals about 45,000 calls for service. I want to thank you for moving our county forward with the next-gen 911 system and also the new CAD system. I love where I work, just like Lieutenant Nutter. I love it. I wouldn't be here this long if I didn't. And I just want to make sure that you remember the 911 center. And also, I'm very proud that I have trained and through my center a lot of deputies, investigators, and sergeants that work for the sheriff's office came through my center. They left me to make more money on the road. I can name some dispatchers that have left me for more money after I trained them. Currently, I have a full-time employee that is going through a process with another county, and she's probably going to get hired because I train people and they go elsewhere for more money. So thank you, and please consider adding more staff to the dispatch center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman and board members. My name is Steve Shapiro, Madison District. Forgive me, I didn't plan on speaking, and I'm not a public speaker. I'm a Fairfax County fireman, former Air Force veteran. I've been with Fairfax County Fire and Rescue for 19 years. I'm a paramedic also. I've got to say that the deputy's comment that a 40-minute response time is a possibility is concerning. I have a wife who stays home 24 hours when I'm gone, and it's highly disturbing to me. Also, the fact that being a firefighter paramedic, we rely on the police to secure scenes for us. We don't go into scenes. That means if somebody's shot, they're waiting 40 minutes for a police officer before we go in there. Their chances of survival are drastically decreased. I think you really need to consider expanding the sheriff's department and at least trying to meet them halfway on the money that they're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Good evening, board members. My name is Jason Miller, and I'm a resident of the Port Royal District here in Caroline County. In the interest of time constraints, I will just paraphrase what I've prepared to say tonight. I live here with my wife and children. I'm also a patrol sergeant with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. I've been employed with the Sheriff's Office since November of 2006. And again, I'd like to thank you for all you guys do for the county. I understand that you have a tough job. And we as deputies here have a tough job as well. We're not all just deputies. We wear a lot of hats. Just a brief description of some of the things I do here. I'm a field training officer, which means I train the newly sworn officers before and after their academy training. I'm a general instructor, which means I'm certified to instruct law enforcement officers in various subjects. I'm a defensive tactics instructor, which means I train new law enforcement officers in arrest and self-defense techniques to keep them safe and keep others safe. I'm a speed measurement instructor, which means that I train officers in the use of radar and LiDAR to enforce speed violations, which generate revenue for the county. I'm a stinger spike instructor, certified to train law enforcement officers in the use of stinger spikes, device used to stop dangerous vehicles pursuits from proceeding into residential areas. I'm also a less lethal munitions instructor, a naloxone instructor, and I'm a CERT team operator, which means is I'm trained in tactical procedures and equipment used in emergency situations and high-risk situations that normal patrol officers are just not equipped for. And because of this, I have to maintain a high level of fitness and a marksmanship level to remain a member of the team. And on top of all that, I have to perform all duties and responsibilities required of a deputy sheriff, as well as supervise 4 to 6 deputies at a time in the performance of their duties. And I think the greatest responsibility of all that I have is I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son. I didn't get into this line of work to be rich. I got into this line of work for the service. I knew that I would miss holidays, birthdays, special events. I ask you to ask my family what I'm worth. The family that wonders if they have seen me for the last time every time I walk out of that door in uniform. The family that misses me at Christmas and Easter. The family that knows that I want to be there, but I have to work overtime just to pay the bills. Overtime that puts me in the very same danger that I'm in during normal duty. Yes, I didn't get to this line of work to be rich. I knew what I signed up for. It would just be nice to know that I can take care of my family by doing so. We're shorthanded at CCSO, which means we have to work harder, longer hours, which means even less time with our families. I worry that we won't fill the empty spots because just north, south, and west of here, jurisdictions are paying more money. You may wonder why we don't go to these other jurisdictions. Believe me, some have, which is why we're shorthanded. I urge that you work with the Sheriff's Office and come up with a solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Erin Cardoso, and I'm a deputy with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. I reside in Hanover County and have been employed with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office for 2.5 years. My fascination with law enforcement began at a very young age when I had the privilege of listening to my grandfather telling his many stories from his time as an FBI agent and later as an investigator with the Marion County Sheriff's Office specializing in cold cases. It wasn't until I became a victim of domestic violence in May of 2016 that my desire to serve my community in a law enforcement capacity was solidified. I prayed many times for the Lord to show me the path He wanted me to follow. My family and I had also had many discussions on what this new endeavor meant for not only me, but my entire family, including my 2 children. Both of my amazing girls, Tessa now 10 and Eliza now 6, were at the forefront of my mind and heart during this process. In August of 2017, I was given the most amazing opportunity to work for Sheriff Lippa and serve the community of Caroline. I will never forget the excitement I felt during that phone call where a position was offered. During my time with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, I've had some of the most amazing opportunities to serve the citizens of Caroline. I've also had to see things that human beings should never have to see and been expected to move forward as if my heart and mind had not been permanently changed. With all of this, I wouldn't give up any of these experiences that I've been through. Each in their own right have made me into the person I am today. What I would like to see changed is the ability to make the most of the time I have with my family when I'm at home. My days are mostly spent on shift, in court, in training, or on special assignments for the community. The time that they get with their mom is so little that it shouldn't be spent working hours and hours of overtime on top of my typical schedule so that I can make ends meet. As you all are aware, the salary of Caroline County deputies is substantially lower than surrounding jurisdictions. It's my understanding that some people feel that those deputies who are unhappy with the pay currently provided by the Caroline County Sheriff's Office should simply go to other jurisdictions. The feeling of utter betrayal of hearing that was horrific. I could most certainly go to another agency and have been asked to apply in some of those jurisdictions. My heart is with this county, which is why I stay. However, I still need to be able to provide for my family. Those who have made and continue to make the choice to stay are being punished on 2 levels. We are personally feeling this pay differential, and we are exhausted from being so short-staffed. There is something to be said about having the opportunity to be proactive in preventing crime instead of only being in a reactive state. Until we have the pay we most definitely deserve, we will continue to be short-staffed, exhausted, and chronically reactive to situations. Should you make the choice to fail us, I will continue to put on the Kevlar, place my firearm in my holster, and kiss my family goodbye each day with hopes that I will be able to kiss them again when I return home at the end of each shift. Through it all, my children, even though young, understand and struggle with the thought of their mommy leaving for work and possibly not making it home to them. I trust you will make the right decision. We are always ready to protect you and your family with our lives. It's your turn to be there for our families. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. I'm Jason Church, Deputy of the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, and I live in West Mattapanai. I've been on the road with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office for over a year now, and during this time, my shift has never been fully staffed. Right now, we have 2 deputies plus the sergeant. So we each have half the county. That is, at a minimum, 1 less deputy on the road each night, 1 less person that is able to respond to a scene to help protect the citizens of Caroline County, and 1 less person to help protect me should I need backup. My shift is not the only one with shortages either. No deputy does the job for money. We have to love what we do, and do it for so little. We do the job because we want to help the people of our community. We are expected to run towards shots fired, intervene in people fighting, or talk to the person having a rough day who may want to hurt themselves or hurt someone else. We are needed by all, wanted by few. We are diplomats, social workers, and therapists. We are the first to seen and last to leave. While doing all these things, we count on the people backing us up. We need the best, which is why Sheriff needs desperately to find and retain good staff. But the best generally do not apply because they can go any other direction and make considerably more doing the same thing. I'm asking you tonight to support Sheriff and close the wage disparity gap. Help us find the best talent so that we can continue to keep the people of Caroline County safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Susan Maida Church, and I live in the West Mattaponi District. Full disclosure, my husband is Deputy Jason Church, who works for the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. Over the past few months, I've watched the issue of the pay disparity grow. When I look at this issue, it's not just a what is my husband going to bring home in his paycheck issue. But let's be honest, I'm not turning down more money anytime soon. This is an issue that impacts his personal safety and the safety of the citizens of Caroline. My husband works the night shift. His shift is from 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. When he has gone to work and all of us are asleep, I would like to think that in an event of an emergency, that help would arrive within mere minutes of a call to 911. But when my husband's shift is short one or more deputies, that's not always possible, and the nightmare of an emergency where every second counts drags on as the deputies can be 10 or more minutes away because there simply isn't enough help to get to the scene in time. So I'm asking you, what will you say to the family that needed help? Will you call for an investigation? Will you ask for a deputy's resignation? Or imagine that a deputy is on a routine traffic stop at 3 a.m. and something goes awry. He or she needs backup, but there is none because the only other deputy on shift is on the other side of the county helping someone else. If something happens to that deputy, what will you tell the family? If something were to happen to my husband, would you tell his sister that the perk of the job is that he got to take a car home and no other county employees can do that? Will you tell his nieces and nephews that their uncle received a pay increase last year so you couldn't afford to hire any new personnel? Will you tell his parents that the sheriff's department just received new cars so there was no funding left for closing the pay disparity? And will you tell me and my daughter that maybe if the sheriff had used Indeed.com instead of Facebook, he would have had a better recruitment pool? The answer, of course, is no. You would never think of such things. But when you hear of those tools and you have so generously provided the sheriff's department, pitted against the value of someone's life, all of a sudden those tools are really worthless. I'm not here to make you upset. That's not my style if you know me. But I'm here for you to walk in my shoes for just a moment. What if instead of this being my husband, it was your daughter, your son, your partner, your spouse, your grandchild? Would your position on the pay disparity be the same? Wouldn't you rightfully want your loved one to be protected the same way I want my husband to be protected? I applaud the things that you have done for all of our first responders. They all deserve the best because they are the best. Regardless of firefighter, medic, 911 dispatcher, or deputy, we should continuously strive to make Caroline County the premier place for all first responders in Virginia. I understand budgets, pay cuts, credit scores. I've worked in fundraising for 15 years, and I have seen it all. Your work in this effort for our county over the past few years should be noted and praised. I am asking you tonight to take a closer look at your budget to help the sheriff to close the pay disparity here in Caroline so that we can continue to protect those that protect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? If there's anyone else, I wish you'd come on down so that we could.
Good evening. I'm Sergeant Chris Hall with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 18 years. Also, I'm a resident of Reedy Church District. First, to start off from the positive, I want to thank the board for everything they've done for me personally. You folks are the reason I have clean drinking water in my neighborhood. Also, the last raise we got, thank you very much for that. I think I've thanked some of you individually when I've seen you. Also, about 5 years ago, county government really took care of me when I was severely injured at work, and I wasn't getting paid by workers' comp. Mr. Parton and several other members of the county helped me with that. But I just want to go back to the last raise we got. most of you don't know, my wife works for Caroline County Public Schools, and they had a significant increase in their health insurance rates within this past year. And looking at the cost of everything, I bought my wife and kids under my insurance here with the county. It was the cheaper option. And just looking at the cost of everything, and I'm very thankful for that, by the way, because I know a lot of people did not have that option. We did. Our household did. But looking at bringing them over, plus the last raise we got, and the money that she's now getting in her check, still, that entire raise for me is gone. Our household now is making $40 at least less a month than we did this time last year. So I just implore the board, just do what you can to help the sheriff so we can make a living. Also, just to talk about shorthandedness, I am the school resource officer sergeant, but today day shift was short, so I was also out running in between school visits, checking on disabled vehicles. I served a couple papers, helped Sergeant Roselle here with a fire alarm call that was at this building. So it was a very busy day for us. So thank you folks for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Just want to start out by introducing myself to you. My name is Aaron Garth Abner. I've prepared some remarks. I am not a Caroline County resident. I live in Hanover. But I've been employed with the CCSO since 2013. I started my career as a part-time employee working in the court. My full-time job was a supervisor sergeant at Pamunkey Regional Jail. I left there in 2016. I came to work for the sheriff full-time. It was a goal of mine, and I enjoy working for him. Really wanted to come and work in Caroline County. After a stint on the road, after I graduated from the academy, I applied Criminal Investigations Division, which is where I've been working after the past 2 years. Besides my full-time assignment, I also assist with other projects around the office. I'm a general instructor, I'm a firearms instructor, and I'm also a patrol rifle instructor. I assist with our annual firearms training and planning leading up to that. I also fill requests for instruction at both the LE and the Jail Basic Academy for Rappahannock Regional Criminal Justice Academy. I've been teaching pistol marksmanship for over 20 years with both the NRA and the DCJS. Also earned my Part 107, the UAV drone pilot license. I'm on the Caroline County Fire Rescue team with that. And when my schedule allows it, I do train with them as well. I've got some other stuff written down, but just for the sake of time, I can say without hesitation I love my job, and I can tell you that it's very disheartening to see so many other agencies consistently raising their minimum pay standards to compete for qualified employees. When I teach at the academy, I'm literally teaching new recruits with zero experience, and they're earning $8,000 to $10,000 more a year than I am, simply because they just work 15, 20 minutes north or south of here. Today's law enforcement officer wears many different hats. There are law enforcement officers, mental health counselors, mediators, problem solvers, marriage counselors, and just about anything else you can think of, because we answer a lot of different kind of calls for service. It's imperative that we retain well-trained employees for both liability and productivity. No one calls the police when things are going well. They call us when they have a problem and they want us to efficiently solve it, and they expect top-notch service. In order to maintain a high level of competency, we must retain employees after investing resources and time in training them. It's not a secret that recruiting is down across the Commonwealth. Recently, we saw Chesterfield County. They put a billboard up on our road recruiting people from Caroline to come and work there. We recently received an invitation to participate in a local recruitment expo in May. What should we put on our recruitment literature? I respectfully request that the Board of Supervisors raise our pay to match the surrounding agencies in our area in order for us to, as a department, to achieve and maintain cutting-edge service for the residents of Caroline County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. My name is Carl Eichenmiller. I've been employed with Caroline County Sheriff's Office for the past 13 years. During my tenure with the Sheriff's Office, I worked my way from a dispatcher to patrol deputy to investigator, patrol sergeant, to my current assignment as Sergeant of General Investigations for the county. That progression through the ranks, to most, would appear normal for anyone to look at for someone with my time and standing with the Sheriff's Office. However, what you don't see in that progression is the addition of several duties or hats that I wear to make Caroline County Sheriff's Office a successful and fully functioning Sheriff's Office for Caroline County. Just to name a few of the extra duties I take on in order to be able to serve the citizens of Caroline and to make Caroline a better and safer place to live, first and foremost, I've been a field training officer when I was in patrol. I'm also a DCJS general and firearms instructor, to which for the Sheriff's Office, I'm the Range Master Armor for the department responsible for all annual firearms training to make sure everyone stays qualified. I've attended the Department of Forensic Science Academy, which was a 9-week course, graduated with 95th session from that. I'm certified in forensic cell phone extraction and analytics. I'm also recently a polygraph examiner, which was a 3-month course equivalent to a semester of graduate level studies at a university. On top of all this, I still carry and maintain my own caseload. My current assignment with the Sheriff's Office is one of the most demanding positions within the Sheriff's Office, and in my opinion, law enforcement in general. Law enforcement investigation is one of the most time-consuming and detailed-oriented jobs in law enforcement. What we do during an investigation could be different in a guilty person spending decades in a correctional institution or that guilty person being set free on a technicality because the investigator didn't have the resources or manpower to be able to investigate the crime as it could have been done. Please don't take this as me complaining at all. I love my job and working for Caroline County, which I think is evident with the years I've been here and the training that I go through to better this county. I only ask that the women and men of Caroline County Sheriff's Office be treated and compensated fairly for the sacrifices we go through, the dedication we put forth, and the care that we have for this county. Thank you.
What district are you from?
I apologize. I'm not a resident of Caroline.
Okay.
Chairman, members of the board, my name is Joe Crowder. I live in Hanover County, but I've worked in Caroline County for over 16 years. Unlike most jobs, it takes a special person to be an officer, and it can be a thankless job sometimes. Because we took this job to serve and protect, we miss out on a lot of friend and family functions like holidays, birthdays, sporting events, concerts, and vacations. The money we get paid is little compensation for the sacrifice we are willing to give for everyone in this county. We will give our lives in a split second, not only for the ones we love, but for the complete stranger that we've never met. I cannot agree more with the words from a Caroline County leader. He said how glad he was to see the support of the Caroline citizens on the Second Amendment issue we had a few weeks ago. He said it's hard when you have such a strong support for something to look at a large group of people in the eyes with an answer. The leader was Mr. Seeley. As a leader, I want you all to look at the crowd behind me and look at the eyes of each officer and their family and think about your future decisions you're going to make. This decision is about leadership and how this county will continue to go forward with the safety of its citizens. I have the confidence of all of you that as leaders of the citizens that you serve in Caroline County, that you will do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm William B. Whiteside. Unlike the rest, I'm not a sheriff's deputy. I'm a citizen of Caroline County. I live over in the Willowboro, the Woodford area. It's a big metropolitan area if you haven't seen it yet. We got a post office. That's big. What I'm concerned about is my department. See, I started off in law enforcement a million years ago, earning $6,144 a year. And I know about trying to keep up parity because when I retired as senior agent in charge in the drug enforcement unit, that was one of the things that we talked about. You had to maintain parity with everybody else. Well, let me tell you something. I don't play on a losing team. I play on a winning team. I don't want to be the one that's trying to make the parity. I want to be the one where everybody else is looking over and saying, we want to be over there. I want to play on that team. Now, if it means we have to raise our taxes, and I'm talking as a citizen now, then let's raise our taxes if that's what we need to do. But when I find out that there's only 3 deputies covering Caroline County, I'm glad that I got a concealed weapons permit and that I carry my weapon all the time. We can't do this to our people. When I started out, we had a uniform issued to us. We had to buy our own gun. We had to buy our own ammo. And we had to buy our own shoes. I don't want these guys to have to do that. We didn't have bulletproof vests. We didn't have computers. Matter of fact, we probably had carrier pigeons. I knew Tony back when he was still a trooper. So I know that he's an honorable man. If he says he needs help, I flew back from the West Coast last night just to be here today, to make sure that he got the help. I'll do anything the board asks. All I ask you to do is to meet us halfway. Our guys deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Good morning. Good evening. I'm sorry, a little confused, working evenings. Good morning, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a little tongue-tied. Stacy Curry, I live in Northeast Bowling Green. And I just wanted to come to say tonight that I think this is the second time I had to speak at a board meeting here. And really wasn't prepared to say anything tonight. But sometimes you just can't keep something to yourself. I think, Mr. Thomas, you're the only person that's retired that's on the board that I know of. Mr. Underwood, you retired then too? I digress on that. I'm glad to see you made your retirement. The other members on the board, as far as I know, you guys don't earn your living in Caroline County. You live here, but you don't earn your living in Caroline County. The men and women that's standing behind me, we choose to make our living in Caroline County, and we shouldn't be penalized, the sheriff's office, nor the clerk's office, for wanting to work here. It's something that we take pride in to be able to serve this county. Between me and Lieutenant Keith Chapman, we probably know everybody that's in the county. But that's something that we choose to do. That's something that the men and women behind me choose to do because of the great leadership of Sheriff Lipper. And we don't need to be penalized for what we need to be doing. Mr. Thomas, you told me about my pickup truck that I drive. Sunday, I was at Green Top with my son. I got a call within 45 minutes. Fire investigator Doucette and myself, we were on the scene of the fire there here in Dawn. Within 2 hours, that was already taken care of. Origin and cause was found. State police, as far as I know, haven't been in this county to do anything as far as fire investigation with a structure maybe 3 times within the last 15 years. I take pride in that because we do that. The men and women in this county work hard, and we do that. It's a no-brainer for this pay thing. It's just a no-brainer to be able to do what's right. We are all God's children. Just do what's right by us. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone else that would like to speak? Last call.
I'm here. You knew I'd be the last one. Mr. Chair, members of the board, you've heard from each of my people back here. Our people, not my people. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I think we've accomplished what we needed to do of how we even got here. When I write the letters, when I send the emails, when I even call some of you, I don't get any responses. And Mr. Underwood and I will talk. Reggie and I go back a long way. And it's just so disheartening when I came to everyone for help when I told you there's a crisis. There's a crisis. I've asked for your help because it takes a year, if you remember, for us to train a deputy. I give you kudos when you do the things that is good for Caroline County. Not me. I'm the old goat. I could have retired 4 terms ago. But I chose to stay here because of the men and women of Caroline County, because of all of us that are here, including yourselves, because we love this county. You know, talk about disheartenment or disappointment. You know, Mr. Cully reads his stuff. We changed the agenda so all that information could get out to my people. It'd been nice if I'd have gotten that. I didn't get it. So how do I know everything that's in there? Could I rebut? Could we do? And I say this not just for you guys. I say it for me. We've got a problem. And we need to fix it. We have a problem, and we need to fix it. Stop the political garbage. I didn't take this job. I'm not a politician. I've spoken on behalf of our people, and Mr. Underwood and I can always disagree. That maybe I think it's personal because I don't get any of that. And when Mr. Underwood told me again in the break, Tony, I always talk to you. I don't always respond in writing. I can appreciate that. We can agree to disagree. And you know, Mr. Seeley, I got a feeling that the bell's going to go off. And I would hope that you would at least let me finish what I have here because of our people. And when we started off to divert, to deflect, to redirect, it's not good. It's not good. And I spoke on behalf of the fire department, of all EMS people. We're all first responders. I don't bring these things out to get up there and say it's between us and them, or me and you. And it's the same thing with our teachers. We're all supposed to be here for Caroline County. You know, I have so much documentation and everything else written. I know I can't do that in 3 minutes, so I'm speaking to you from my heart and all this stuff. And as far as the media is concerned, you know what? I'm held accountable. I'm held accountable to the people. And if it took the fact of the media to get involved for us to come where? Finally, first time, we have a meeting set up for a work session. Are you going to cut me off?
Well, I've given you 4 minutes, but if you could get to wrapping it up, it would be good.
Well, Mr. Seeley, the only thing I can tell you is I've asked and asked and asked. And I can't wait for the work session. And I can tell you right now, it's not a threat. It's just telling you for our people. When you hear the men and women that are out there to protect us, and we're only looking, and right at the very beginning, I'll wrap it up for you. Remember when we started this, when that firm came in? We were lowballed right from the very beginning. And what happened as soon as y'all stepped up to the plate to give us more money, then King George raised theirs. $3,000 to $5,000, if not more. So I know that I'll see you guys. I know that you're going to cut me off, but believe me, I'll be here for every public session. I'm always available. And God bless the men and women that support this county.
I kind of stop everybody from clapping because it's a board meeting. There's no clapping. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone else that would like to speak? Public comment is closed. Everyone want to take a couple minutes? Let's take 5 minutes and we'll resume. We're going to resume our meeting. I see that Mr. Black has now received a appropriate mask to keep Mr. Forehand from catching any sort of contagious.
Yeah, I'm a safety guy. I demanded he wear his PPE.
We won't go there. We're going to continue on with agenda item number 5. I believe that is Mr. Fincham. No, it's unfinished. Unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
The next item on the agenda is RZ 07-2018, Coolwater Development, owner and applicant. The request is for amendment for the proffers related to the previous rezoning of this property. By way of background, the subject property is what the project known as Belmont West. It was originally approved in 2004 for 327 total units, 3 single-family detached and 324 multifamily units. The 3 single-family detached and 62, I believe, of the multifamily units have already been constructed. You may recall that the property was foreclosed upon by the bank and ultimately sold to the current owner of the property, who is requesting these amendments to the proffers to allow a specific type of Virginia Housing Development Authority low to moderate income tax credit program housing, or in the event that does not work, to be allowed the ability to continue with market rate development as has previously been constructed on the property. You have in your packet some questions that were raised by the board, as well as the applicant's responses to those requests. And I believe a couple of proffers have addressed some of the concerns that were raised by the board. If you recall, there was concern about the applicant possibly or requesting a change in the proffers to have the option of installing the pool and the clubhouse. The applicant has amended the proffers to ensure that those amenities will be constructed. And a couple of other proffers were added at the end, I believe, to address concerns by the board.
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Fincham, one quick question regarding the original cash proffers that are there.
Yes, sir.
They will begin on the 157th unit?
Yes, sir.
Which means there will be 105 units paying $47.62, just over $500,000 is what the proffers will be collected for the Carmel Church Fire Station.
Yes, sir, that's correct. There is no change in that proffer.
Okay, that was the one question I wanted to make sure I knew where we were. We're at what unit now?
I believe, are the 66th unit would be the next one constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Other board members with questions? Ms. Long?
Mr. Fincham, you said if the government grant is not awarded, then we go back to fair market. Would the applicant come back to us, to the table as far as proffers goes, if he does not receive this tax grant?
No.
Just flip back?
Short answer is no. The proffers allow any combination of the VHDA program, market rate, single, multifamily or condo, or any combination thereof. So once you approve this, or assuming you approve this, if you approve this, it gives the variability to allow the project to be developed either as the VHDA, market rate, or any combination thereof.
Percentage of rooms as far as 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom would stay the same, or be up to the builder at that time, or the owner at that time?
It's slightly flexible depending on whether it's the VHDA or whether it's market rate. Market rate has an overall average of 2 bedrooms for the entire project, with a variability rate, I believe it's 12% for single family, for the 1-bedroom versus the 3-bedroom.
that rate is slightly higher for the VHDA. There's a minimum of 15% one bedroom with a maximum of 20%. The original request would have been for 30% three bedroom. That has been reduced to 20%. So you have a slightly higher overall bedroom average of just over 2.
Mr. Forehand?
Mr. Fincham, I like the additions of on the proffer statement. Just one question regarding number 4, the facades. Was there ever any percentage of the facades that needed to be brick or other type of masonry? And my fear, if we don't go the USDA route, then we go to market rate route, and then we have this 3-story, all vinyl sided building, and which is allowed under proffer statement number 4.
Yes, sir. Understood. You stand a better chance of getting the higher quality materials under the VHDA application.
Agreed. And I read all the background, and that makes complete sense. That's not my concern.
Right. Understanding that, you also have provisions in the state code from 2 years ago that prohibited localities from, in the proffer process, negotiating material improvements or other physical improvements for residential development.
Okay.
Which I would suggest impedes us from discussing that outside of the VHDA provisions.
That's fair. I mean, it's not bad, and I'm optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm a pessimist sometimes. All right, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I have another one, sorry. One was the original permit was for a building with the open breezeways, similar to the Lafayette apartment pictures we have.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And now with the grant, we would be more like the Orchard Ridge. We would be enclosed. There would be no open breezeways. So, if we don't get the grant, do we conform? What are we approving? Which style are we approving? Because I would much rather have the enclosed than the open.
Again, I don't think we can get to that level of detail with our proffer discussions, given the legislation in the General Assembly from a couple of years ago regarding limitations on construction types, designs, et cetera, et cetera. We actually...
If we're approving it.
Pardon?
If we're approving the plans, why don't we have a say?
Well, again, there was language in the General Assembly that specifically prohibited localities from getting involved in those discussions. Not that we, and I will say, not that we, that Caroline were violators of those provisions, but there were localities out there, for example, that were negotiating granite countertops, et cetera, as part of the proffer discussions that even I have a hard time arguing there's a legitimate public health, safety, and welfare reason for that discussion.
Okay, and then my last question is, did you get an answer to my question about if somebody stays and exceeds the income level, do they get evicted?
I would refer you to the applicant.
Okay, I can wait till he comes up if you want.
This is not a public hearing, so this
He
is
wasn't
just
planning to come up.
You've had the public hearing, so
That's true.
Can you just
So-
ask him what the
Yeah, if someone.
just ask him what the answer to that question is? And
I
just
just
that
have
question,
a
please.
quick question. If, say, a new teacher goes into this facility and is working here in Caroline and succeeding well, and her pay scale goes up because she's been running one of these units for 5 years, and she gets past that requirement, you get to kick her out, or does she get to stay?
To be truthful, I do not know the answer to that question. I would have to defer to Jen Serber, who has assisted me in answering many of the questions you posed through Mike. As you all know, I've stated many times, I'm not an expert in the LITech field. I'm an apartment guy, just more of a market rate guy than LITech. I do not know. I'm trying.
Just that one question.
I think there's some kind of grandfathering for some period of time, but I just cannot answer your question. It's a great question, though.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty.
Sure.
Ms. Long, Mr. Fincham and I visited one in Spotsylvania that's similar right back over the summer. And she gave us the scale, and for a new teacher, I don't think that they would hit the scale right away. It was for single, there was a certain number for single, and I don't remember. And then with a couple, it wasn't like double. So in other words, like for example, it might have been like 50,000 for single, and then like 70,000 for a couple. So the single teacher, that was one of the things I was honing in, and I don't remember the number, but I don't think you would have a single teacher going there and then all of a sudden being kicked out the following year.
And that-
Right, or
so
the following year.
And practically speaking, if that's the case, then their subsidy or the market rate adjustment that's made simply goes away. They occupy it somewhere else, and it opens up another opportunity for someone else to come in at the lower rate. I mean, I can't imagine any sane tenant or landlord would put out a tenant because they make too much money. They would just open up a door for someone else.
Go ahead.
Let's go one question. Sorry. Proffer number 18 says the owner will work with, it's very broad, with Caroline County's departments and agencies and prioritize affordable workforce housing opportunities. What exactly, I mean, it's just that's a very broad statement. I mean, what exactly does that, do we have any idea what that entails? What proffer number 18 entails?
I would assume that would mean,
I had to look for it myself because it's
Not in the list.
it's a highlighted yellow on page 4, but I don't know like of the.
It was initially spoken regarding teachers, firefighters, police for the priority.
It's in the middle of the. In the middle of all of it.
Prioritized over light
well,
candidates.
my interpretation of that, and I didn't write it specifically, but it would mean working with Mr. Wilson when, or the actual management of the apartment complex, working with Mr. Wilson to accommodate new employers that were coming to town to, speak about affordable housing opportunities. But yes, it is a very wide open statement, and it requires cooperation.
I think the idea was also to, for example, to work with the school system, sheriff's office, fire and rescue.
That's the idea.
You have a number of departments and agencies. You have young teachers coming in. I think the opportunity is to promote housing opportunities for qualifying, residents in the county that may be employees of the county or one of its agencies as part of this process.
And that's something that we're going to need to advertise. I mean, if this thing passes, because we don't have a lot of that.
As an example, the apartment complex is next to Spotsy Hospital. There's a special program for both doctors and nurses, in particular nurses, to be housed there, whether it be permanently or temporarily, as they find permanent housing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fincham,
Yes, sir.
In the original proposal, there were no three-bedroom dwellings, is that true?
That's correct. The original proffers were limited to one or two.
One or two. So this would open up 20% to three-bedroom
It would open up 20% to, yes.
of the total that's left to be built? Or is it 20% of the total even of what's built?
20% of what's left, the 264 that are left.
So the first 106 don't count?
No, that would be included. No, the previous ones don't count. That's correct. They've already been built.
Yeah, 62. 62 units.
Because that's the part that I think is the most,
No, 62 units are already built.
are built.
Right.
But I mean, so it's 20% of the remaining number.
It's 20% of 264. That's correct. Yes, sir.
But there's also a corresponding number of one-bedrooms, correct?
Yes, they've proffered a minimum of 15% one-bedrooms and 20, with a maximum of 20% two-bedrooms.
Those numbers, I mean, 20 and 20 and 10 is only 50%.
Yeah, not two. That doesn't apply to two.
Right.
The percentage restrictions apply to one bedroom and three bedroom.
So you're limited to 15% one bedroom.
At least.
Well, no,
A minimum of 15%.
a minimum, so 15%. So there's no, but my point is that so you're really looking to build 2 and 3 bedroom apartment complex,
Well, 1, 2, and 3. A mix.
with the majority being
Two.
2 and 3, because the number of 3 bedrooms is higher than 1. No, 1 bedroom is 15%.
Well, a minimum of 15%.
But that doesn't add up.
Majority is going to be 1 and 2. Or majority is going to be 2, let's put that.
Majority is also 3 and 2.
Well, the VHDA point system caps out your ones at 20%. So basically, assuming it's a VHDA project, then it would be between 15 and 20% ones, and I believe it was 20% threes. So it would be an approximate average of a 2-bedroom unit overall.
So if you don't get VHDA, do you still get to build 3 bedrooms?
No, I gave you my only copy.
It was. Hold on one second,
I'm
Mr. Sealy.
here to wait.
I'll get the exact number for you. A and B.
Okay, so under a market rate, it would be no more than 12% of either threes or ones, but an equal percentage.
Of ones and threes.
Of ones and
So
threes.
if you built 20% ones, you could build 20% threes.
Well, it'd be capped at 12.
No more than
Under
12.
market rate, it's capped at 12% for both. Equal amount.
Okay.
Working out to an average of a 2-bedroom unit.
For an average of
Now-
2 bedrooms per unit.
Now again, this is a project that's already approved. Without doing anything, he could pretty much come here. So what he's got is the market rate project that we're now trying to make a little bit better and refine it so that he can apply for the federal grant and have a much better looking project. So I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve it.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any further
With the
discussion?
proffers as amended.
With the proffers as amended and submitted before the meeting.
Amended second. Well, they have to be amended before the public hearing, don't they?
They haven't significantly changed.
Yes.
Another public hearing required.
Technical or minor changes you can adopt after the public hearing.
Only when the changes are significant do we require another public hearing. So, we got a second?
You got a second. You have 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah, no, I said there's 2, Reggie and Jeff. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
How optimistic are you?
Thanks for everyone's hard work and inquisitiveness
Good luck.
on this. Thank you.
Who is doing agenda item number 6? Well, Alan's jumping up.
I was just going to give a very brief intro and turn it over to Wendy Sneed, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that Supervisor Black had asked staff and Wendy Sneed to look into, and that's possible ways to provide transportation assistance following the end of Fred Transit bus service in the county. And you have a proposal in your packet that Wendy developed, and it is patterned somewhat or influenced somewhat by a program in King George, which also discontinued Fred bus service. So we're asking you to consider $20,000 in kind of seed money to establish the program. And with that, I would turn it over to Wendy Sneed to go over the particulars.
One question: is there any rebate on this to us, Wendy, if we do this from social services? Because we used to get gas cards.
Ask me again. What's your question?
Is any of this reimbursable if we start it and you spend it? Is there any avenue for reimbursement? Because we used to have a gas card program that sort of went by the wayside 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
The only thing that I'm thinking of is what we're currently doing that's paid for through our...
Right, but we had another, it's been longer than that ago, because this
Yeah,
was
because I'm not...
probably 8 years ago.
Thank you.
But there was, my question is there an avenue for reimbursement on any of this?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Can research that.
It may have gone away, but at one point in time when I first came to the Social Services Board, we had a reimbursement program for additional transportation.
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
but I can research that.
I'll let you go on from there.
Mr. Seeley.
Well,
Yeah.
do you want to say anything else, or are you just going to take questions?
I can summarize. I can just take questions in the interest of time.
Go
I'll
ahead,
do
Mr.
whatever you'd
Black.
like.
Could you just do a little brief summary? That's what I was going to ask.
That's what I was going to have her do.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me come to speak.
Your name's Wendy, right?
I'm Wendy Sneed. I'm the Director of Caroline County Department of Social Services, and it's so nice to see everyone this evening. Please excuse me, it's well past my bedtime. Our agency currently provides transportation-related assistance to clients participating in our Employment Services Program, which is our VIEW program, Virginia Initiative for Education and Work. This assistance includes gas cards, vehicle repair, vehicle purchase, insurance, taxes, DMV fees, and court fines. We have found over time that in this rural population, removing individual barriers to transportation is the most productive way to move people off of assistance and towards self-sufficiency through employment. So as Mr. Parton stated, with Fred no longer in the county, we would propose that a transportation assistance fund be established to help the general population that's not eligible for our current programs. I've given some definition in the proposal of how we might establish eligibility, and with our department administering this fund, there would be no administrative cost. It would be all money direct to help citizens. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Go ahead. Ms. Sneed, right now you have medical transport programs through your department. If somebody has a doctor's appointment or something of that type?
If someone has Medicaid, they can go through the companies that provide Medicaid-funded transportation. Yes.
But if they don't, they could use this program to get to a doctor's appointment or to get to the nearest Fred bus stop to get to a doctor's appointment. Is this going to be primarily for medical?
This would be primarily for individuals who have the ability to drive, but need barriers removed so that they can then become self-sufficient in their own transportation and move towards employment. We didn't really envision it for people who have long-term inability to drive at all.
Well, the reason I ask that is when we had the public hearing on the budget for Fred Bus, the only two people from Caroline that spoke were people that, because they had a medical issue, could not drive.
Yes.
But they wouldn't qualify into this program? So we're not really filling the gap for Fred Bus if we don't get them transportation?
For those two individuals, for that particular need, no, we would not be filling that gap. What I would offer, but you're not asking me my opinion, but what I would offer is that the Area Agency on Aging Mobility Options Program is a program that's very worthwhile in supporting, that would assist individuals that have that need, that are incapable of driving for whatever reason.
And I was surprised when I went through here. I did not realize half of these programs, the car, the inexpensive use. So I think we're going to work on doing a brochure to be able to hand out to people. I'd love to have something with all your programs that when people call me for help, I can just send it to them or email it to them. Because I'm not aware of this, so I'm sure a lot of citizens aren't. And now I know there is another revenue or way for people to get to doctor's appointments. Great. Thank you.
We're not, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thomas? Ms. Sneed, you do a great job in providing the safety net for folks that really need that. I'm kind of concerned about the person who doesn't have a car and was using Fred, and we have a lot of low income or middle income who my car broke down.
Right.
Now I need to get to Fredericksburg to rent a car while they work on my car. I can't use this program because I don't qualify being part of Medicare or Medicaid, whatever it is. How do we handle the people that are the middle class folks that are just slightly above poverty and don't have it?
That's why I would propose that we utilize the state median income level and not the income levels that are used to determine eligibility for TANF or SNAP. Those are much more restrictive levels. This state median income scale is not as restrictive, and you can decide what level, because it's by percentage, you can decide what level you want to go by to set that eligibility. So it would allow some folks to qualify for assistance with transportation costs that wouldn't be eligible for our other programs.
But how would you make that happen? I don't have a car, but I come to you for help.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get me to Fredericksburg?
Well, I might be able to provide you gas cards where you could pay someone that you know to transport you. I might be able to say, if you found a car that you're able to purchase that's within our purchase guidelines, or if you have a car but it needs to be fixed and the general condition of the vehicle warrants that repair, that's what this would be for.
Okay.
Mr. Underwood?
Sir.
I'm sorry, excuse me. The numbers here of clients served, are any of those duplicate? Is it possible that I
It is
received gas
possible.
cards, and is it possible that I also got my car repaired? Is it possible? I'm just trying to really determine what the number of people served
Okay.
versus the actual. If I receive 2 gas cards, am I counted as 2 people? I'm only one.
You're one person.
I'm only one person.
You're one
Okay.
person on that. But
So-
we could have helped you repair your car, and so
Right.
then you would be duplicated.
Okay.
So I would have to go back and look at,
And that's totally based on eligibility for this particular assistance.
for the program
So-
that we're already administering.
Correct.
The Employment Services Program. That's determined on your being eligible for that to start with, and you're satisfactorily participating.
Okay. I'm just wondering how many real individuals it is versus real clients versus
Sure.
services, if possible.
Right. I can't pull that number out of the air for you at the
Yeah, I
moment.
understand.
What I can tell you is that our VIEW program currently averages about 40 people a month that we're serving. There's some duplication of service in the numbers that I provided, but not a great deal. But I could provide more information.
Okay, well, thank you.
Silly.
Mrs. Long?
I'm sorry, it's
That's
late,
okay.
and I'm slow
Come on.
on this.
Quite all right.
So everything over here in the VIEW program, we're already doing, right?
That's already being
So the
provided here.
additional $20,000 is just in this little paragraph, and it's going to be for gas cards, for people who have employment but need temporary transportation? Is that what you're suggesting?
People who meet the income level but are not eligible for our existing employment services program, but call and need help because their car broke down and they need to get back to work, or whatever.
So are they temporarily qualifying for other programs, or is it just, we'll give you a $50 gas card, call a friend, and go get a ride into town?
I think we would try to individualize it based on what that particular person needed and that they had a sustainable plan moving forward. I think there are more details that could be worked out as far as how we administer the program, what we could do. I wanted to provide an option that we could provide some meaningful assistance to some folks that aren't eligible for our other programs. I'm absolutely open to feedback and suggestions about what might be most helpful.
Ms. Needs, just so I'm clear.
Yes.
From her question, the people that we're looking to serve with this $20,000 are not eligible to tap into the funds that are already going through the VIEW program.
That is correct.
So the VIEW program services these folks, and the $20,000 will service the next layer up. And that'll be on an individual basis depending on what their specific need might be. And it may not be in one of these categories, may or may not be, but not out of this bucket of money.
Correct.
Always contracting with Uber drivers.
Well, can I say that quite some years ago, we contracted with an individual who went around and picked up our VIEW clients and drove them where they needed to go. And not only did we wear him out, but people were not motivated to move on and to become independent. Hey, this guy will come pick us up. Everything's great, you know. I mean, that didn't happen all the time, but there was no end to it. And to just give something with no end to it was not as helpful. What we saw as more and more helpful as the state permitted us to build our transportation assistance within the VIEW program was to help people remove whatever those individual barriers were that were stopping them from driving to work. That was the main thing.
So what we need to do is develop some guidelines with this $20,000 and give you some time to work out who can call you when they have an issue and what you're going to approve and what not. Because right now, all I see are gas cards.
Oh, no. I mean, my proposal means to include each type of assistance that we are already doing with our VIEW clients.
So they would be open for that, but the income requirement would be different.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Why don't we say that we want to move forward, we're really considering the 20,000. Let's look at, bring us the VIEW guidelines for bring us a policy, because I think we're willing to do it. What I'm hearing is they're looking for guidance for what this is going to do and how it gets implemented. I don't think there's any doubt in the dollars, so I don't want you to do something that there's no potential for, but I think the potential is there to do this, the guidelines, and you probably have them for VIEW. You just got to change the criteria for it. Can we do that?
Yes.
Can we table this? Just
to the next meeting?
If the next meeting, let me make sure that she's going to be ready, because we may need to go to February, because I don't want to say we're going to be ready in 2 weeks and we're not. Let's let Mrs. Sneed communicate with Mr. Colley when she's ready. Huh? Right. So it's a week from now, so it really isn't going to be fair. Let's do it in February. But I think the intent is there. We just need a policy. So it's not like you're doing something with the hope of we're going to do this. I think we're going to do this. We just need a policy. Is that fair?
It is.
And our meeting is like the 11th of February, because otherwise you've got to do this in a week. I don't want to say you're going to do this in a week.
Come on, why not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm being real.
Unless you really want to.
I mean, if you can call Mr. Colley. If you're ready, talk to Mr. Colley. We'll put it on the agenda. If you're not, we'll look for it in February. Just give you some options.
Sounds
How's
like
that?
a plan.
All right. Everybody good with that? All right. We're going to move on. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7. If everybody's read this, I don't know that we need much discussion, nor will it do us any good to have any discussion. I'll take a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pardon's got it.
If I could just clarify for the public, it is
Yes,
not
sir.
a new tax. It is not an increase in an existing tax.
It is fortifying what we should have codified already.
Yes.
Everybody did. You can put Mrs. Long down. I saw her do it. Mr. Thomas. Oh, Mrs. Long. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8. Now, I don't know how many of you had this discussion individually. We've all had this discussion many times. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I am simply here this evening seeking direction from the board as to whether the board wants to apply for any smart scale transportation improvements in the upcoming smart scale process. Applications are due by, I believe it's the 1st of April, meaning that staff together with VDOT has roughly 3 months to put together support documentation for any requests that the board may have. By way of background, the last time we allowed Bowling Green to use one of our slots to put in a couple of requests for projects along the 301 bypass that came out of the 207-301 corridor study. The county itself had a request for improvements to the I-95-207 interchange, which did not receive a favorable recommendation from the Commonwealth Transportation Board, in part because, one, it was financially it was a large project, and those types of projects, the state looks to participation from the county in the form of revenue dollars. So,
One question, Mr. Fincham. Can you ask VDOT where the Route 2 study is that they did some time ago that none of us have seen?
I could check, but I'm not aware they actually ever finished the Route 2 study.
Well, they've told me twice that it's complete.
Oh, no, they lie. No.
Well, you know, we're going into this, and
That's
we
why
have
my
some real
recommendation
potentials that wouldn't be expensive. One of them is straightening out Farmer Drive on the VDOT side that needs to be done, and Farmer Drive on the other side is equally as horrible, even though I'm not sure how we would do that. But we do have some corridor problems on Route 2 that we, you know, Long Branch Road's a problem. I mean, you've got, but where is the Route 2 study?
I can find out for you.
That would be my question. Mr. Parton looks like he has the answer. So if we could start there, it may help us with, because those would be low cost.
Yes.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. Yes, sir. I was going to say, the One Farmer Drive project, I have discussed with VDOT, and they have suggested that that be included with the 6-year secondary road plan update that you will see in April.
Okay. But I'm just saying, I
But
think
you're right, there are
some
other spots along that corridor that we could look at.
that have, we have had a number of crashes there in the last year, and the traffic on that's only going up. So if we could, if they could facilitate forwarding us that study, it would
Yes, sir.
really be helpful.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Because I'm going to,
I do have a
Go ahead.
question.
You go first.
One of the things that we have on the GWRC, that we were on the Charlesburg project, when we did that, and the state agreed to it, is there any project in the county because the Charlesburg project got funded 100% because of safety reasons.
Safety, yes, sir.
Is there a project, and I understand from them, like on the rejection of the interchange because they wanted some financial, resources from the county. Is there anything, as far as I understand, that safety mechanism that the state has is a priority on them putting money into a project? So the Charlesburg Road project, for example, is a curve. It's small. I mean, it's not a major interchange with I-95. Is there anything that we have in the county anywhere where we know it's a smaller road, it's an intersection where there's been a major kind of situation where we've had numerous traffic accidents? I think that would be something that we could point to, because if we put it under safety, we have a much better chance of getting something even without resources than we do putting some large-scale project in without resources. Because we're not going to get the large-scale project without resources.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Small projects.
Simply put. So we need to identify somewhere in one of our districts, if we know of an intersection, we're not talking about an intersection with 95, we're talking about, like Jericho Road type situation, or a small intersection where there's been numerous accidents that could possibly be, go under, hey, look, we have the statistics to show this is a dangerous intersection. They look at that in the SMART scale much more kindly towards localities without putting money in than they do with the economic development. So I think that's something that we need to kind of laser in on focus.
And certainly we could do that. I'll check with VDOT tomorrow on any intersections or road sections such as 639 where there's a segment of road with a high accident rate that might qualify. And we can get the top 2 or 3 and start working on those. Mr. Seeley, you may want, I don't know, but you may want to reserve a spot for Bowling Green again.
I'll talk to them and see what they want to do. I know that all 3 of those intersections, that, Courthouse Lane, the one at West Broadus, and then the one, even the getting off and going into Bowling Green, coming out of there. One of the things that somebody did ask me about that I'd like to forward to VDOT, is there any way to put an outdoor light at the intersection of where you get on the bypass at the south end of town? Because at night it's dark. There is nothing there to clue you in on to where you stop or what's around you. So if we could get a light there, I was asked by several people in the last couple of weeks, I don't know what happened. I think somebody got actually stopped there.
Okay.
And it was just like, who is stopping me and what's going on?
Okay.
But if we could get, if there's any way to put an outdoor VDOT light
At the intersection
at
there.
that intersection.
Yes, sir. I'll follow up on that.
All right.
VDOT has indicated that the 3 intersections along the bypass and Bowling Green, they might be able to fit under one project.
Okay, I'll go to town council with that, because all of those, I mean, I hear the sirens and I can see the lights when they do an accident there, and it's amazing what you can hear and see in the wintertime and the number of people that have hit the guardrail.
VDOT also suggested that, at least on the 207 corridor in Caroline, that some of the intersections, we might consider extending the acceleration or deceleration lanes.
Right.
For example, as you come out Nelson Hill Road with the intersection of 207, you have a lot of truck traffic there, that when they pull out to go west on 207 towards 639, it takes them a while to get up speed. They suggested that we might look at adding an acceleration lane at some of these key intersections to help with the traffic.
As long as they don't want us to close any crossovers in trade-off, because
Understood.
in the past when we've talked, they want anything we do like that, they want to close a crossover, and I know that we will catch.
The board has not yet adopted or approved the 207-301 corridor study, in part out of concerns that the board had with the recommendations. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that needs to come out of agenda item number 8?
Well, can I?
Go ahead. I thought you were done, sorry.
The packet, the pedestrian trail for Bowling Green, has that been an official request? Are these just things that you sort of pulled?
No, ma'am. Neither of those are requests. They are simply discussions that I have confirmed with the town manager that GWRC has worked with them.
Well, I would like the board to consider, because the other thing in here is a request for a safety study on Route 2. We have talked to them about it. It's sort of on their list, but I think we could do that. It's a smart scale. It's a low income. We're going to get a lot of pressure from Spotsylvania with all the building they're doing up there on Route 2. We need to start now if we're going to fix Farmer Drive and keep accidents from happening at Stonewall. So I would like the board to consider that. Also, I was asked by the mayor of the town of Port Royal to let everybody on the board know that the one insert here on the town is not what the town requested of VDOT, and to please ignore it until they figure out what they're going to do. So I'm just the messenger. But we do need to get Route 2 on there, I think, if the board would approve and support that, all the way to Bowling Green.
Okay.
Mr. Fincham?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the projects that are recommended by the FAMPO staff. Sidewalks are part of this?
Sidewalks are part of, and if you're looking at the Bowling Green sidewalks, we've had VDOT there, and one of the problems is some of those streets don't have
Right away.
Well, not only that, but they also don't have any place to park, so some of the sidewalks are parked on.
Because I would like to add, if sidewalks are part of this, a segment of sidewalk from Campbell's Creek to intersect with the existing sidewalks at the Advanced Auto. That segment, because that gets a lot of foot traffic from Campbell's Creek and the other neighborhood across the street, and Ladysmith's Village, for example. But there's a lot of foot traffic going from all those neighborhoods to the Y.
Okay.
And if that's a project, even if it requires some funding from us, I think it's worthwhile.
But I'm planning on taking this to town council, because we've talked about sidewalks many, many times, and VDOT's been very reluctant to sign up to sidewalks. And we did some sidewalk repairs, and all of the street intersections with sidewalks, they came in and made them all handicap accessible. 4 or 5 years ago. They did every one of them as one of the VDOT projects. But sidewalks, I mean, get the strip that you want. Pick the most highest priority because you're going to get one swing at that.
Mr. Foreman, wouldn't you want to kind of go from that one section of businesses, I don't know what the place is called, on by, across the street from Campbell's Creek?
Yeah,
all the way
that would
down
make
from
sense.
the
There's already
different-
sidewalk there.
Yeah, go from that section of sidewalk that's there on by, and then it connects to mobile home and everything all the way down the street.
Mr. Fincham, can we just broach the idea with FAMPO that we'd like to look at 301 South?
I would say we have that issue with GWRC as part of the rural transportation plan.
Okay. Maybe we should mention it there, but I figure if we mention it as many places as possible, maybe it'll eventually get some traction.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Back to my question, do we need action on this, or is this information we're going to,
If I'll take this as guidance.
that'd be fine?
If that's okay with the board, I will be talking to VDOT officials later this week, and perhaps they can pare down with this discussion some specific recommendations that they have talked to us a little bit, and I will email to the board perhaps a list of candidate projects that the VDOT staff believes that may have some traction as part of the process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, we will move on to agenda item number 10. I read most of this.
I was going to say, have you all read?
I'll
We
tell
have
the
not,
truth.
we
I'll
have
tell the
not
truth and say no.
planned on a blow description of the very thorough document, but just wanted to see if there were any concerns or questions the board had as you made your way through it.
I thought 10 cents a day was a little low. I wasn't going to make her get up.
Oh, no, that's what I'm here for. It's comparable to what other library systems are
I
doing
was
in
just
the area.
surprised. I thought it would be more than that. But I read 85% of this, so to me it was pretty standard. I didn't see any issues.
I had
Anybody?
just one question.
I think it was well done.
And I had a citizen that asked me before, and I brought it to Mr. Cully. A couple of free copies before you start charging, is that possible?
I looked at that based on some of the suggestions that you had given about like 10 or 5 free copies. The one issue that I will have is just looking at our numbers this year, based on what our copier costs are with the current rate, we will not make back what we spend in copier costs. So, for example, if we stick with 20 cents a sheet and the first 5 are free, we're down to about $3,400 in a year, where we spend $7,000 a year in our copier costs. So,
I'm just thinking some services we should provide to, taxpayers. If you got a library card, you're a citizen of Caroline, you're in the library, and I said, oh, here's something I need to print out.
I mean, we do already offer resumes, job applications, K through 12 school homework, anything that they print out for that, that's already free.
And tax forms are free too?
Tax forms are 10 cents, just because they've gotten so long, but
Yeah. All right, let me double check with this constituent to make sure those are the things that she was concerned about. All right.
Do I have a motion to adopt the policy? She's waited patiently
So
all
moved.
evening. Do I have a
I'll make-
second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you. Sorry we kept you so long. Oh, okay. First reading of proposed amendment of Chapter 93-1 of the Code of Caroline County, Schedule Water and Sewer Fees.
Ready to move this to public hearing? You ready, Mr. Shebel, if we move it to public hearing?
Yes, sir.
This concerns only what's called the Milford Sewer System, which is currently only Brookwood subdivision. So if there's no other questions, I'll offer to move this to public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? 11A is the Little League, let me go to my front. Yeah, permit fees for Little League building refund. Can we can't refund, can we?
You have to just reimburse.
We have to I was going to say, we can't refund, but we can
Give them
reimburse.
the amount, give them more money.
They could spend it on something else.
Correct.
Figure out what our cost was first.
Can we, Mr. Fincham, figure out what our real cost for that will be? I mean, it's close, it's probably not but 3 inspections.
Yes, sir.
And then-
We'll figure it out then.
And then we'll reimburse, or we're not reimburse, we will donate the remainder of that. We're just trying to cover our real costs.
We'll have a number for you at the next meeting.
That'd be great. Anything else?
Mr. Fincham, they had talked about they've got to do some other permitting too, so you can get the total cost, so that way we know a total number, because I don't want them coming back over and over again.
If we have all the information that allows us to calculate.
You know who, it's a guy, I'll get you his information.
Okay.
So the two of you can connect.
Okay.
You know, oh, Fletcher, last name Fletcher. Yes. Thank you.
Do we have a closed meeting still? I need a motion. We now need to go into closed meeting.
We got 12.
Oh, 12 information. Yes.
We've included information in your calendar. You see that the Department of Fire and Rescue received a Office OMI EMS grant, so we included that in your packet for those different projects that we were able to get. The Chief could talk about them, they're medical things.
I have one question on projects.
All right.
The middle school floor says that it has 3 coats of polyurethane. Is that all it's going to get until we do maintenance, or do they owe us 2 more coats that we're going to do at some other time?
I can't explain that. They got all that straight Monday night.
I read the email, that's why I'm...
As part of the system that they put down, typically they only put 2 coats. We actually got 3 coats out of the deal this time. And then every year they will come back as part of the warranty program and the maintenance program where they provide all the chemicals to clean the floor. They'll do biannual inspections, and then they'll come out once a year, sand, a light sanding of the floor, and put a new coat down. So the problem that you have is right now is you've got 3 coats, so the wood is coated, but you could still end up with minor cracks within the seams of the wood. So if any water gets in there, by using a floor scrubber, it'll actually turn the wood gray. So they don't recommend until after you've got 5 coats, and it's actually written in the warranty. You normally get 2. It says wait for 3 additional years. We only have to wait 2 years to start using a floor scrubber.
And we have a maintenance contract with them?
The schools will. They're getting all that information to us and going to get that to the schools, so they'll have that information because it's an annual expense
Right.
to be able to redo the floors each year. And then at the end of the 10 years, they do a complete resanding and new lines and everything, and then start back over.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the calendar goes, this Friday and this coming Monday are state holidays. The Fire Rescue Banquet is at 6 p.m. The Awards Banquet, Bowling Green Town Hall, 25th. Yeah, the 25th. If they haven't gotten your RSVP in, you probably let them know. The next day, the 26th, that's how I knew that was the 26th, is the Historical Society meeting on the old jail in the EOC. Then our next board meeting, the 28th, at 5 p.m. in the EOC. And then February 1st, the Polar Bear Plunge. February 6th, Bayco Day at the Omni in Richmond. That's board packet day, so I'm not sure whether Alan, I know Alan's not going, or whether I'm going to attend. I don't think we've signed up. Board meeting is the 11th, 5 o'clock as well, with the sheriff at the EOC, and then Monday, the 17th, is President's Day, another state holiday. And then we'll be done with holidays until Memorial Day. Memorial Day.
We have Friday as a holiday.
That's correct. For the last year.
The last year?
Yeah, states have changed that. It's going to be moved to Election Day,
Election Day is going to be a holiday.
like it used to be. No, it's not. No.
We won't have Lee Jackson Day.
No, I think it's just legislation to change that.
Mr. Sealer, it's not on the calendar, but isn't the community leaders
That's a Friday
reception
night.
on the
It's
24th?
yeah, it's actually on the 24th of January at AP
Right,
Hill.
yeah, right.
Mr. Blake
Friday
said he didn't receive his email, so
Can
you'll
you
make sure
forward
you
that to
got
me
it.
To make sure, I mean, because I don't remember
Did
getting it.
everybody else get it?
I got it twice.
All right. We got closed session?
Yes, we do, and if we do closing board comments, now we could come back and just
Adjourn.
certify and adjourn.
Okay.
Mr. Forehand, closing board comments?
Are we able to make a suggestion for invite to the 24th to the leaders reception at AP Hill?
What do you mean, make a suggestion?
Yes. Oh, true.
It's the AP, I mean, if you want to bring somebody, you can.
Yeah, I can't be there. I'll be getting in from Arizona that day.
Who do you want to invite?
Miss Twiner.
Twiner, the leader of the YMCA, should like to get to meet.
It really isn't, I mean, you want me to call AP Hill and ask them? I'll
If
do
you don't
that.
mind.
I'll do that.
If you're willing.
I'll do that. I'll call there tomorrow.
She could be your plus one.
She could be my proxy. That's fine. I would take her as my plus one if I were going to be back from the airport. We've gone.
Okay, I'll make that phone call. Mr. Black, closing board comment?
Yeah, just to once again reiterate, I know we have another board meeting, that Polar Bear Plunge. We would love to have a corporate sponsorship. So, Mr. Thomas, you could have your sign right there.
I don't do cold, dog. Don't
And
stop asking me.
That's why.
I
That's
don't
why
do
you can
cold.
be. That's why you can be a corporate sponsor.
I
have your
told you,
sign
if you
right
do
there.
anything in July, I'll help. I don't do cold.
So you'll be there for a judge for the costume contest.
I don't do cold. I'm
Mr.
wearing
Underwood,
long
you
johns
wanna be a
today.
judge for the
I don't do
costume
cold.
contest? All right. Anyway, well, February 1st, we hope to see you guys there. Mr. Martin's looking forward to being a corporate sponsor, as well as Mr. Cully. Mr. Cully will be the DJ, so we appreciate that. But any help you guys can give to one of those organizations, they would greatly appreciate it.
I'm going to go eat at me until let's go.
Mrs. Long,
I have none.
Mr. Underwood, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, Mr. Fincham, Mr. Wilson are going to get in touch with the State Fair to discuss the hotel that she mentioned, so we can figure out what to do about it. That's it.
And I have none. If you will take us into closed session, Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the discussion of plans for public safety and security exemption of Section 2.2-3711A19 of the Code of Virginia to discuss plans to protect public safety as related to the security of governmental facilities, buildings, or structures, and the safety of persons using such facilities, buildings, or structures. That is my motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are in closed session. Mr. Thomas, can you make a motion to bring us out of closed session since it's on the bottom half of this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we come out of closed session and certify to the best of each board member's knowledge that only business matters lawfully exempted from opening meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting, to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Forehand, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mrs. Long?
I so certified.
Mr. Underwood? Mr. Thomas?
I so certify.
And I so certify. No other business?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
we need
we need-
a...
Recess
We need to, first of all, we need a motion to actually expend $100,000 on security issues discussed.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
This out of the current fund balance?
Yes.
Yes.
A second as amended by Mr. Forehand.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I need us to recess till 5 o'clock on the 28th at the EOC.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
Recess too. That's what
No,
Recess.
recess.
You just did it.
We just did it. I thought we did. We just recessed. We're done. We are recessed.